everyone. It is Thursday night, and welcome to the Sports Crib. I see the usual suspects are here. Let's see if we can get Don or I guess Mr. Daly is still on the soccer tour. But I did invite Mr. Henry in if he happens to show up tonight. So we've invited him also. But guys, everyone knows how much respect I have for the city of Cleveland. And,
Meaning absolutely none.
And just to reinforce that respect, we have the Cleveland Indians pitcher that injures himself for aggressively, I think, quote unquote, taking off his shirt.
It could happen to anybody, James. Anybody.
But when it happens to a Cleveland clown, I mean, Indian, anywhere near the city of Cleveland, Demetrius, for once, I'm not going to let the Bill steal all your thunder. I'm going to let you start here.
This was great. To me, I think this one has a degree of just people being people. To Bill's point, this could happen to anybody. I mean, so I remembered three of them kind of off the top of my head. When I saw this, I knew immediately this is James taking his shot at Cleveland. If this guy would have played for any other team, we wouldn't be talking about this, right? But I remember there was a guy for the Brewers named Matt Wise who cut his middle finger on some tongs. And I'm like, I know how to use tongs. I have eaten a lot of salads in my life. How do you cut your middle finger on tongs? Terry Mulholland scratched his eye with a feather from a hotel pillow. That's the other one I remember. And then a friend of mine I was talking to earlier told me about one that I think ranks right up there, Rockies, and his name was Clint, and he's from Colorado, ironically enough. We don't have our friend here. He tore his collarbone lugging deer meat. Right? That's the best.
Clint Hurdle, who now is a manager?
No, I think this was a player. I think this was a few years ago. And so there's part of this is just human beings. It happens to human beings. But sometimes it's just ridiculous to the point that you go, wait, what? And this one was great. I've taken off shirts for years. Sounds odd to say that. But I would call myself an expert at taking off shirts. I've done it so many times. Bill's probably an expert at taking off. And I'm assuming this is just like a t-shirt, right? There's only a couple of ways you can do this. You just pull the damn thing over your head. I've never... All my thumbs have never been injured taking the shirt. This one was new to me. Yeah. I thought it was interesting, but yeah. I knew when I saw it was an Indians pitcher. Okay, it makes sense. It's going to be on the Sports
Crib. well, just this season, Jesus Luzardo beamed himself by hitting a ball off the screen while working on his swing. Oscar Noah broke his hand, if I remember correctly, punching the bench after a rough outing. I think Zach Wheeler injured himself putting on his pants, tore off the nail of his middle finger, put his pants on.
What kind of pants are those?
Right? Jose Quintana, right, since we're on a roll here, injured his left thumb washing dishes, cut 5 stitches.
Yep.
5 stitches, right? Pitchers particularly seem to fall prey to these things. Hunter Strickland, remember Hunter Strickland dropped a barbell on his face, broke his nose, I believe. Once again, yet another pitcher. Let's see.
Chris Coughlin tore his meniscus trying to pie his teammate. Celebrating to put after the game, not even during the game. He's going to pie his teammate after the game in celebration. Tore his meniscus. And just to say it's not baseball, former Lion Stephen Tulloch tore his ACL after sacking Aaron Rodgers and jumped up and did a discount double check and tore
I was watching that game. I remember that. He went down like he was shot.
He did. As soon as it happened, you're like, whoa, he went down. It's great though. It's funny.
Carlos Correa got a rib fracture during what I must assume was a very aggressive massage.
Deshaun Watson level stuff right there.
Yeah, I mean, only with a little extra. I don't know what it
right.
rib fracture. Jonas Cespedes ended up injuring not one but both of his heels.
Yep.
In stepping in a hole on a boat.
On a boat.
No, ranch. It was on his ranch. Sorry, it was on his ranch. So apparently there's a wild boar involved, as I understand it. And he fractured one ankle, I guess it's right, and then injured the heel of the other foot and had to have surgery on both feet. So, first of all, for those who don't know, like if you've just been eating ham all your life, you've never seen an actual wild boar, they're no joke. A wild boar tusk like that, a full-grown one, that can open like one of those P-38s on a tin can.
Probably easier than a P-38.
Probably easier. Exactly, probably easier. They can run 20 to 26 miles an hour, depending upon breed and weight. And a boar is no joke. The bow in Bo Jackson is short for boar hog because a boar hog is so big, strong, and mean. He was such a bully when he was a kid, they started calling him Boar Hog Jackson. And then later put him to Bo, in case you're wondering. That's why they get Bo from Vincent.
Great nugget.
There we go. Blake Snell, right, was trying to move a grandstand in his bathroom, broke his toe. Pitcher again. Man, pitchers. Pitcher wondering, you have to have somebody watch your pitchers at all times. At all times. Let's see. Now, finally a catcher, Salvador Perez, ended up injuring his knee, carrying luggage up to stairs of his home, right? Hire someone, get a boy.
Right. You play baseball. You can pay people to carry stuff. What are you doing? What's the deal?
Right. Yet another dishwashing disaster. Sean Kelly swiped off the tip of his right thumb, right?
What is that? I don't wash my dishes, and I'm not that rich. I got a dishwasher. It's a machine. It does it for washing dishes. This is great.
Now, luckily, Madison Bumgarner, yet another pitcher, is damn near indestructible, but he had a dirt bike accident a couple of years. Right? Remember this? He bruised his ribs, sprained his pitching shoulder, of course. Now, because he's Madison Bumgarner, he didn't miss much time because he's, basically made of leather. But pitchers, man. Pitchers. Trevor Bauer, right? Remember our boy? Cut his pinky finger repairing. Here's my favorite. Repairing, you guessed it, his drone.
Yep. Yeah. I do remember that one. That's a classic.
So, but it seems like about 2/3 of them are pitchers. That's what I love it. There's
that is interesting.
Sprinkled position player, but man, those pitchers are dangerous. I'm gonna finish up with this one last picture because I have to. So Jeremy Affeldt was separating frozen burger patty in his home. Wait, it gets better. It gets better for a barbecue. Right. So he cuts his hand doing that. Then later, a few months later, right? So that's late in 2011. Early in 2012, he sprains his right knee playing with his forearm. Then, because I had to finish with this guy, because Jeremy Affeldt should go ring of honor of pitchers who hurt themselves. Then, 2 seasons later, he dislocates his left knee, playing with his kids on an off day. So, not be trusted to wash dishes, play with their children, own drones, ride dirt bikes,
eat salads,
or take off their own clothes,
or put on a shirt, right? Or put on a shirt. Exactly.
But it's amazing some of the things that athletes can find, to hurt themselves. You can kind of understand, like you said, Demetrius. If I'm broke, I'm washing my own dishes. Yeah.
Right.
If not, someone's washing them or I'm throwing them away.
Exactly.
It's simple as that. But hey, while we're talking about exercises and futility, I believe Don might be watching. That might be why he's late. I'm not sure, but spring football league.
Yes.
Bill.
Yeah, you can have this. You can absolutely have as much time as you want, bro.
What are we doing, Bill? What are we doing?
Okay.
Why do we just keep throwing? Is this one of those, if it sticks on the wall type deals? I mean, are we just going to keep throwing money and getting more? I mean,
well, first of all, there are some good players, for people who don't know, who are playing in the spring league. And I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything anyone doesn't know. Other than college football, really, they could use an actual developmental league. The NFL has. My father was a volunteer, especially volunteer, they couldn't really afford to pay, but you got free admission. Back in the day, my father was a volunteer statistician for the old Norfolk Neptunes of the Continental Football League. Remember those? Remember them, James? The Continental Football League back in the day, where the Sistrunk brothers actually got their start before they got started. Because I don't think either of them went to college, if I remember correctly, or maybe one of them went to college for a minute. I know one of them didn't. I think Manny might have. Which one was it? Otis, I think, used to say he went to the University of Mars, or something correctly. But there's really a legitimate need for a developmental league. Now, will this become it? Probably not. They'll probably let it die like all the others. But there are players, and we always talk about the quarterbacks, and obviously the quarterbacks are what everyone talks about. But there are players. I mean, Tim Tebow's the next example. That's where he should be, frankly. He should be in the spring league. If he's legitimately serious about trying to become this H-back, tight end, whatever, he should be doing this, frankly, on some developmental league's dime as opposed to Jacksonville's dime. But, of course, Urban Meyer is in the NFL. So I guess, you take your opportunities where they come. But my point is there's a real reason for this. I mean, if you were watching Ryan Willis, who I remember from his days at Virginia Tech and I guess Kansas, if I remember correctly before that, you can see a guy who's got enough talent to be a backup quarterback in the NFL. There are running backs, there are defensive backs, there are wide receivers, there are players who are good enough that they can make a 53-man roster. That's factual information. Now, here's the issue, or amongst the issues, and it might only be 2 or 3 guys on each roster, but that's double-figure guys once you add together the 2 different rosters. I mean, Brian Lewerke, he's nothing to write home about, but he's a guy that deserves a place to be developed, right? There's something there. I was never a huge fan of his, but there's something that somebody could work with him.
Michigan State guy. I was a huge fan.
Yes, right, exactly. There's a defensive tackle / defensive end named Nasir Player, who I loved at East Tennessee State, who's good enough that somebody should be trying to develop him. Johanna Giffen is another. There's a couple of defensive linemen that stood out to me when I watched, and I said, this guy's good enough to be on someone's roster somewhere. Azim Victor is a guy that's got some talent, super raw, but somebody should be working with him. People always say, oh, when someone gets professional coaching, they'll get better, they'll blah, blah, blah. And I don't think people understand just how little time can be devoted to the individual development of players' skill.
Right. Yeah.
Right? You're trying to install, I mean, just for fun, when you get super bored, try to get a look at what an NFL game plan looks like for a game and what a playbook looks like. It's ludicrous amounts of information. I'll name a couple of players I know are good enough to be on someone's roster somewhere. Dewanya Tucker, the Prairie View running back, is a guy that should be on someone's roster somewhere. Cameron Eccles-Looper from TCU and Western Kentucky is a big, fast receiver who's got talent, and somebody should be developing him somewhere. There's enough players, if you just go through those rosters, that each team has 2 or 3 that are good enough, and they just would be fighting for a roster spot. Now they're playing. it's just smart at some point. I know the NFL has been, getting the milk for free, so why should they buy a cow? I get it. But at some point, your milk supply may not be quite what you want it to be, and especially at certain positions, right? I think at some point they should say to one of the various leagues that comes along and says, hey, as a pilot program, we're going to give you, each team will kick in $1 million, right? 32 million is nothing to the NFL as a whole. It's everything to one of these leagues that's fighting to stay alive and hoping to be able to pay their secretarial staff and their travel staff and their operations staff, hoping their checks don't bounce each week. 32 million would be like, that's money to them. And they would, in exchange, be able to have a special supplemental draft once every season of the best players out of what this particular league is, right? And unlike the other drafts that we have, the ones for guys coming out of college and the normal supplemental draft, I would propose they create special roster exemption for, once again, 1 year. If you add one of these players to your roster, you then continue to develop them for free. I mean, like you're paying them, but for free in terms of counting against your cap and counting against your salary. I mean, your roster allocations. There's so many things we keep talking about growing the game, right? The best way to grow the game is to grow players. I mean, it's cool to hook up more endorsement deals and stuff. You can Shazam crap on your phone or whatever. That's cool. We all dig that stuff too. You can download your such and such buddy, and now you're getting, a chance to win an extra, who knows, whatever it is. That's cool, right? But if you grow the players and if you grow the coaches, right, it would be a great opportunity. If we say we're serious about developing minority coaches, women coaches, coaches that aren't getting a shot. Why not hey, we're going to give you this extra money. Some will go to you paying these young coaches who would be stuck, frankly, doing crap work. All right. At the deep end of our staffs here, now they're going to be position coaches instead of just, hey, can you bring me all the cut-ups of the Titans in 2018 or whatever it is they usually stick these poor people doing as opposed to real coaching. Now they can do real coaching as opposed to just earning their way to do real coaching. They can do real coaching. And now you get to bring them back up with experience doing real coaching, being position coaches or coordinators in one of these developmental leagues. So one, the spring league's better football than I expected it to be. Perfectly honest, I guess I've watched a lot of developmental leagues in my time. So if I was ranking them, here's something I didn't know I'd be doing, but luckily. So the World League, right? Not the World League of American Football, but the original World League. Remember them, James? Right? Paul Warfield, Jim Kick, Zonka, Larry Zonka, Mercury Morris. In fact, half of the Dolphins all seemed to join the World League all at once. But I think the Memphis Fire, I think, was one of the franchises. Tommy Riemann, who you may know if you watch North Dallas 40, he played Delma Hobbs, the reluctant running back who ends up injuring his hamstring. He also was the legendary coach at Minchville High, where he coached the Vick brothers. He coached Aaron Brooks. He coached a bunch of great players, and now he's in the Virginia High School Coaching Hall of Fame, but Sports Hall of Fame, which I guess includes coaches, I should say. But my point is that this league, I would say, is slightly better. The USFL was actually really, really good football. I would say it's maybe nestled between the AAF, maybe just below the AAF, but above the XFL, right? At least the last time we had an XFL. In terms of quality of play and quality of player. And this will probably be allowed to die like all the others. But my point is they really at some point should do a little something. I mean, literally throw them a bone because, like I said, if each team kicks in $1 million, that's basically nothing to the NFL. 32. I mean, they blow 32 million on stuff that they don't even know they've blown it on. You know what I mean? Like literally stuff they don't even remember they spent it on. They could keep one of these leagues going and then attach it, through, I guess, like I said, a draft or whatever, to feeding them talent.
Yeah.
That's where I am on that.
And I think it's actually easy. The way to do it. To answer your question, yes, probably is. Because the only way one of these leagues survives Bill talked about it. It's going to have to not only be okay with the NFL, it's going to have to be supported. It's going to need to be funded, not just money. It's got to be promotion through TV deals. It's definitely got to be talent and advertising. To me, there's a simple way to do this. I've been thinking about it for years, and I might need Bill's help. You could just have an 8-team league, a team for each NFL division, and just have each team send their practice squad players. And supplement it whatever you want.
Well, what about NFL Europe? I mean, where else? He hate me not. I mean,
well, see, I don't think NFL Europe was ever meant to be a development league per se. It was meant to expand the brand in Europe, which I think it's different than what the development Bill's talking about. Bill's talking about a place where you take young players who might not be NFL ready today, but if they could go play consistently and have coaching consistently, NFL level coaching, or even for coaches, everybody's growing together. You could have a feeder system, right? And I just don't think the NFL has gotten to a place where they think they need it. They have a feeder system. It's called college football, and they're fine with it, right? But to me, the deal is you get those 4 teams, and they can have a system where just by division, the North, right, and Green Bay and Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit can have a team in that league with their practice squad players, and they can bring anybody they want up. They can have a system of rotating picks, or let's get together every Wednesday before the game. Who do you want to bring up? We do a little mini draft, and you just have these kids, and it's probably going to be young players playing in the spring just to get them structured. It's better than a mini camp. It would be brilliant that way. And they could put these games on TV, and I'd watch them. I'll watch the Lions practice squad guys play. Absolutely. Yes. So you could televise them. You can make money. You could develop young players. Now you don't have to go sign guys off the street. When training camp, you got guys ready to go, and you work it out amongst the teams in the divisions. And it's a simple 8-team league, one for each division. The 4 teams share the rosters. It can be done. And when they figure out how to make a boatload of money doing it, they'll do it because that's what drives that league, a boatload of money. Other than that, no other league. Like the USFL was good, but they tried to compete, and they were actually fine until they let a certain moron into their organization, and he ruined it. If they'd have just stayed in the spring, they were fine. And they let Idiot Boy convince them to try and go to the fall, and it was a wrap. It was never going to happen. You're not going to compete with that league. That league rules the world, right? Their free agency takes over a week of our lives. When other leagues are playing games, we're watching transaction wires for that league. Don't try and compete with that league. You better make a deal with them. And if they find a way to make a ton of money, they'll do it. And I think it's probably coming sooner rather than later. It could be picking up a league like this or starting your own league. But there is young talent out there. Bill named a bunch of those guys that can play football, and they need a platform to play and learn how to be professionals, learn how to practice, and coaches need to learn how to coach. This can be a feeder for diversity in coaching. It could be really good if they want to do it.
Well, guys, I'm going to give you a choice since time doesn't matter.
That's not
so. Where are we going to start tonight? NFL or NBA?
My vote goes to NBA. There's a bunch of nonsense going on there. There's a lot to touch. Real games, real nonsense. There's a lot to touch in the NBA. Yes. So if you guys are cool with it, I say let's hit that NBA stuff.
All right, let's go with the NBA. Okay. Players may or may have not liked the play-in system. But what do you think about it? Do you think that the play-in system was more fan-friendly and brought more fans, to especially to the ratings, with the pandemic going on? Dimitri, yes, you wanted to start, so
sure.
Ding, ding.
I do not like the play-in situation. Now, I'm an old man, get on my lawn. I think you both have established you're older than me, and that's fine. But at 52, I have embraced get off my lawn, kid. I am that dude. You play an entire regular season, whether it's 82 or 72 games. The purpose of that, right, is to determine over 6 months who's the best team. And it's to seed your playoffs and prep you for a championship. So then now what you're going to tell me is, and they're going to kick back and say, it's just the 7th and 8th spot. What's wrong with you? Fine. I'll give you that. But if the Lakers had lost those 2 games, if the Lakers had got knocked out of the playoffs this year on some play-in crap, this would be the hottest topic in the sport right now. Everybody would be up in arms. It's right. It's going to have to bite them in the ass before they realize it. But I think, to me, this is the equivalent of, hey, let's make the winner of the All-Star game have home field advantage in the World Series. It is a dumb decision you didn't need to make. It was completely unnecessary. And I don't even know what they were reacting to. I don't know when that meeting happened where somebody was in there. It's like, you know what would be a great idea? Wait, because we still would have cared. We still would have been watching the standings those last few games to see who was going to finish 7 or 8. And if you finish 10, you didn't make it. You don't get a shot, or 9 or whatever. You don't get a shot now. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So I think they tried to solve something that wasn't a problem. Right. I'm a top shelf cynic. I admit it. I think this wasn't necessary, and it might be landing well with all the kids that are walking on my grass. Right? They might love it. I don't. I think that's what your regular season is for. And I think the cream rises to the top. And when you play 72 games, the best teams are the best teams, and you let them play it out. I don't like this. I don't know. I don't even get it. I honestly don't. I don't know what it was. Is it a money grab? But you're going to play games anyway. So maybe it's a money grab. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't think it was necessary. And even if it's working and they love it, yeah, I'm going to be that guy. Then get off my grass, kid. I'm on my porch in black socks and some old swim shorts, yelling at kids in a tank top, yelling at kids to get off my grass. So, yeah, I don't like it.
Oh boy. Bill, is your daughter going to come running home talking about Mr. Peters kicked us off his lawn?
He's off his grass.
And then say it's only grass. I mean,
well, I guess continuing the spirit of Gran Torino, they were indeed endeavoring to fix the thing that wasn't broken, to answer the question that no one asked. They, in the spirit of that, they're trying to, first of all, they're all about generating excitement. NBA fever, catch it. Okay, you already have NBA fever. How about some chills and vomiting to go with it? I mean, they're nausea, right?
Diarrhea, get everything.
Sweats, right? Yep. Loss of equilibrium.
Everything that goes with the fever, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right. So that's what they're doing. They're saying, sure, you've got NBA fever, but how about NBA shingles, right? I mean, that's what they're basically trying to say. Like, look, don't that. What if you throw in this set of steak knives? Like, okay, look, we all like basketball. That's why we watch it. And playoffs are cool. And you could have just added an extra round of wild card playoffs or whatever if you really wanted to. But yeah, this is, Demetrius asked sweetly, a money grab? I will answer that question for him. Yes, young Demetrius, it's a money grab. It is grabbing of the lucre, the shekels, the marks, the marks, the drachmas. Yes, it's all of that. Wampum. That's what it's all about. All about the Benjamin's baby.
Right.
They are trying to take money that you might have and get it from you, right, but they will have the money. Yep. So yes, that is what it is. It is an attempt to absorb more funds. Now, I understand there was a COVID-19 year and, everybody had to tighten their belt and whatever. I get all that. And so I don't think it's coincidental that the NBA has been looking for ways to, hey, let's bring in a little extra something. And I know that Adam Silver is open to the idea of keeping this permanently.
Oh, it's staying.
So I'll frankly be, what's the word I'm looking for? Pleasantly surprised if these are not here to stay. My only concern, and we talked about old, tired teams, is that good but old and tired teams will be penalized because they're old and tired. Yep. And you can't afford to rest your old, tired players in a play-in situation because you can't afford to even lose one game. So
Yeah.
It's going to put more stress on your old, tired. It rewards young legs, though, right?
Yes.
Remember how young those Memphis Grizzlies looked? Oh my gosh, they were having a ball. Even when they looked they were about to blow the game, they were having fun maybe blowing this game. And boy, they could just go, running up and down the court as if nothing hurt, which I guess maybe nothing did when you're that age. But you could see the difference between old teams and young teams when you see these play-in situations where it looked like John Morant could have played like another game after that game, right? Overtime, schmovertime, let's play too. It really helps to be young.
I'm in the playground. Who got next?
Yeah, let's keep it running. Run it back.
Yeah. I'm running with the next. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
I mean, that's what he looked like. It was a stark contrast. Yeah. John Morant and Steph Curry are two great talents. But you could definitely see which guy had 11 more years worth of basketball on his body. Exactly. Watch that game.
Well, I'm going to give you a comparison later on. It won't be 11 years, but don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a comparison when you want to talk about Ja. We'll see. Well, I'm going to see it. So I'm just going to kind of tease you with that one. But but staying with you here and talking about some of these teams and players, I thought that there were a couple instances where we might have seen a reenactment of the Auburn Hills debacle here. And so I'm going to start off talking about, of course, the popcorn shower.
Yes.
And then, the spitting at a player. Now, spitting on a player where, it probably usually involves some type of physical consequence, but, fortunately this time it didn't. But, and also Trey Young, Trey has decided that he won't press charges.
He is a better man than I. That's all I can say. He is a better man than I.
In two instances there, but anyway, when you look at the way things have went down since we've had not even full capacity. I mean, this wasn't like the 73,000 people that watched the boxing match in Texas.
It wasn't even half that.
Bill, do we still want fans back?
So, brief reminder: global pandemic not ended. Not that spitting on people under any circumstances is even slightly acceptable. But I like to remind everybody we're still in the midst of a global pandemic. You can't be spitting on people anyway. But to the fact that we're still it's not over, people. It didn't end. Just because you forgot about it doesn't mean it's over. And I mean, the popcorn shower, it's not like that's okay either. But it's the difference between someone, you notice is maybe someone backed into your car a little bit, trying to, get out of a parking spot versus someone keying your car, right? They're both things that are really bad, make you mad, whatever. One of them, you want to lay in wait for someone, right? You want one of them find that person and exact your pound of flesh. While the other one, hey, I'll let we'll let the authorities handle it. The fact is that I don't want to associate these people with anyone's particular fan base. This is not something I want to say is because of this town or these fans or whatever. This is a terrible person, right? I want to blame it on the acts of one terrible person. This is one terrible person who is awful and just lacks sense, respect, perspective, everything. All the stuff that, this is not someone I would ever want to even have any contact with. Why you would think you could spit on, there's never a time in my life where I thought I should be spitting on this person. That thought has never crossed my mind at any point in my life, no matter what age I was, even as a small child. Never. I never thought to myself, this would be a good time to spit on somebody. It never occurred to me to do this, ever. No matter how mad I was. I may decide to punch you, kick you, whatever, but I've never thought this would be a great time to spit on you. Like, this would be the perfect moment. So this is someone who has clearly a real lack of like not just like we talk about, social graces, whatever. No, this is a breakdown in like human culture, right? You weren't fully acculturated correctly. Like somehow, some way, it didn't hook up. It didn't all connect. And this person should forever be banned from, let's not stop at basketball arenas, like gatherings of other humans, basically.
Criminal charges. Yeah.
Right. You need to be in the, where was it, the General Zod and everybody else got banished, the Shadow, the Shadow Dimension River. That's where you need to be.
Zone. The Phantom Zone.
Yes, thank you, Phantom Zone. This person needs to go to the Phantom Zone. That's where this person needs to be.
Hey, I used to read comic books. Come on.
There you go.
Good call, man. And you, great call. Great pull. I was looking for it. You had it. The popcorn shower person needs to, be bounced for at least the rest of this. Not just this, like this rest obviously of this and all of next season, right? And then we'll revisit your case in 2023. That's what I'm saying for the popcorn shower person, because you can't be dumping food on people. That's not cool. But it's just the order of magnitude. Like, I don't know how to address they're terrible things, but there's such a difference between the two terrible things that this other person, seriously, Phantom Zone. So yeah, that's where I am on those two people and those two events.
Well, see, Demetrius, I used to have a bad habit. Now, it wasn't spitting on people, but I would leave no doubt, because my bad habit was slapping you.
Right.
You understand? If I was going to disrespect you, I thought that was the ultimate. I'd slap you like you was
open hand. You mean open hand, right?
Yeah. Just like, sure. And might yell airborne afterward. I don't know. But I never imagined, like the thought of spitting on someone or someone spitting on me. Those were probably like, go find the M16, a couple frags. But anyway, like that's cribbing after dark. We won't talk about that. But maybe he showed him his vaccine card after he spit on him. But your thoughts, Demetrius?
So I think like there's a continuum of behavior, and Bill hit all the good stuff. So I'm going to make it personal and just go back to me. I will frequently refer to Mary and Max. Those are the people that raised me, my parents. There is a continuum of behavior, right? And my father was really simple about it. That is my last name. I just let you use it, right? So when you go out and do stuff, right, that's actually my name. You haven't earned it yet, bro. So to me, here's the deal. I think I'm a reasonable man, right? If you walked up, Mr. King, and you slapped me, there would be a brief moment where I would go, damn, why would James slap me? It must be a misunderstanding. I might even say, James, why would you slap me? Right? We're probably still going to dance. We're going to dance. But you slapped me. We got to dance, right? But I will take a pause and go, wait a minute, right? You can say words to me that I might find disrespectful, could in theory hurt my feelings. You're going to get a response. I think on the far right of this continuum, the far right, you spit on me, there is no words. I mean, New Edition, If It Isn't Love is on. We're dancing right now. Let's go. And I'm probably taken to outside of myself to a different place, because on the continuum that my father was really smart about, you don't spit on people. It's very simple. You don't spit on people. I've never, to Bill's point, I can't even fathom, what would someone have to do? If you came up and open hand slapped me, I wouldn't spit on you in response. That's not the response. That's how do you, just as a standard practice of issue resolution, hey, you, Trey Young, I don't like what you're doing to my team. What's my answer? You have so many choices. You could say something about his game. You could certainly say something about his haircut.
Definitely.
There's options, bro.
That's where I would start. Yeah.
Right. If you wanted to get dirty and stupid, you could say something about his mother. You got options way down that list. It's not on my list. There's no world where the answer should be, I'm going to spit on him. Because that is, to Russell Westbrook's point, Would you walk up on the street and dump popcorn on my head? Because the popcorn on my head is, I would be confused first. So I was like, who the hell dumps popcorn? You just wasted like $10 worth of popcorn. First of all, why would you do that? We could have ate that popcorn. There's all kinds of other stuff. But if you wouldn't walk up to me on the street and do it, you shouldn't do it in the arena, period. Bill made the best point. Hey, hello, you're spitting on a dude in the middle of a pandemic. There's so much here. But to me, you spit on a guy, you are simply saying, hey, I want to fight you. That is what spitting is. I would like to get into a fist fight with you. Or maybe go Mr. King and let's draw weapons. A duel like Hamilton and Burr. I don't know what we're doing now. But spitting on someone is so over the line, it's hard to quantify the right response. Popcorn thing is dumb. I wish they would have let Russ go get him. I wish they would have let Russ go get him.
That would have been awesome.
Right. Because at some point, you're going to deter these clowns. You're going to have to get these people. Wait, if I dump popcorn on Russ, I'm going to get that work. So I'm going to keep this popcorn to myself. I'll yell something. Russ not going to come up in the stands at you for yelling something.
No.
You can't assault him. And even though it's popcorn, that's assault. That should be assault. And I don't even think the consequences were hard enough in either case. I think they both should be up on, because part of this is not just penalize these people for what they did in the last couple of days. It is deterring the next clown who had too many beers and is thinking about spitting on somebody. He has to know, wow, I'm going to go to jail. My parents' last name is going to be in the newspaper. And that's my father's too, right? That's my last name. So when you're in the paper, the ladies at the bingo hall are talking about Mary's boy. They don't even know who you are. They're talking about Mary's kid. Yep. My friends are talking about Matt's boy. If you think about it in that way, and I couldn't imagine doing something like that. That is unimaginable to me. It's so ridiculous. And something's got to be done. Something harsh. It's because you're going to have another 2004 Palace of Auburn Hills. Sooner or later, Russ was going to get that man over some popcorn. Yes. Russ was ready. Russ didn't care. Russ didn't care about the consequences. You can't do that. You can't. And I hope nothing tragic happens before they address it.
You remember when, if you had a beef with a kid, your mama used to take you down to his house.
Yeah.
I might be, maybe I'm, maybe
no.
But
you take care of it.
I'm gonna wait in the car. You handle this.
Y'all go do what y'all gotta do. Get this out your system. And y'all best friends the next day. You have a fight and y'all get over it. Once the fight is over, we good.
Yep.
But mom ain't gonna take that mess. I'm sorry. Hey. So let's Demetrius, the Clippers down 0-2 to the Mavericks. Stick a fork in them.
This is a good one. I like your work today, Mr. King. I got to be honest. I want to say yes really bad, except game 3 is always the pivotal game. If they go home and I don't know if they're going home, wherever the game is, they play well and win game 3, then it's still a series. The problem is I just don't think this Kawhi Paul George thing is working. I think Doc was a scapegoat last year, and I'm feeling more. Y'all know how I feel about Glenn Anton Rivers. So I think
you took my punchline because I was going to throw that one
sorry.
I was going to throw that one right at Bill. Are we going to blame it on Doc again? What's up?
Right. Exactly. I think my feeling is, if you don't figure out a way to stop Luka and shoot better from 3-point land, that didn't help. You've got to shoot better from 3 because that's your game as a team. That's what you do. That's what you do. I think better than anybody else coming into the playoff. Or you got to shoot better from 3, and you got to at least contain Luka. You can't just let Luka do whatever he wants. And I'm not saying that's easy because it's not. But if you don't do that, you're not going to be worried about forks. You're going to be worried about blowing this whole thing up. And I don't know if we're as far away from that because Kawhi is just quirky enough. I'm gonna go with just peculiar enough that he can get out of this thing. And I think that there are options for Paul George, for the organization, what they want to do with Paul George. I don't know if they're smart enough, or it might take a lack of arrogance to say this didn't work. Hey, Oklahoma City, you guys got a ton of picks. You guys want Kawhi? You want Paul George? Hey, Boston, you guys want to work something out? You can do something like that. I don't know if they'll do it. I think they still believe they are better than they are. And I just think that they're both good individually. It's not working. And you just can't ignore what you're seeing. It's not working. And so this could be simple. If they don't slow down Luka, you won't have to ask this because the series will be over the next time we get together, right? And it might be that simple. So I don't want to say stick a fork in them because I do believe I always talk about the season. 72 games told me the Clippers are a good basketball team. I don't want to believe that they're not yet. So you got to go to game 3 and see what happens. And if it's 3-0, it's obvious. If it's 2-1 and the Clippers have played well, we might be talking about this series later. So I'm not ready to say stick the fork in, but I got a fork. I'm in the drawer. I'm in the utensil drawer, getting past the spoons, picking a small fork or a big fork. Do I want to go get the giant, like super fork? That's where we are, but I haven't grabbed it
yet. So Demetrius hasn't grabbed the super fork yet. But once again, we are talking about age. Rondo, here's a team where you have 3 guys that are supposedly the head and body of the snake. But instead of everybody talking about, I'll take that man, everybody's out, you take him. No, I'll take that man.
No part of that man.
So, what's your thoughts on the Clippers, Bill?
Well,
done or redone?
So here's the first thing. A name that hasn't been mentioned yet, but I'm going to mention it, is the name of Serge Ibaka. I'll find out his middle name is so I can right. But he's the player who probably has the best chance of, and you don't stop Luka Doncic, but of annoying Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
And if he can't go, once again, I'm not quite ready to stick the fork in, but I have probably taken the fork out of the drawer and I'm deciding if this is the right fork to use. Right. I'll put it that way. Ibaka ended up missing, I think, 30 games this season, had a pinched nerve in his back, won't be 100% healthy, probably at all. Really, but if he can go, if the back spasm lighten up enough for him to go out and play and give everything he can, try to shut down Luka Doncic, it gives them a chance. Without him, I'm trying to think of who's the guy. I mean, obviously we talk about the Claw. We talk about, what a terrific defensive player potentially that Kawhi Leonard is. But okay, and once again, I think I'm gonna give some time back to the gentleman who's up and to my right on the screen. Is it just me or is Kawhi Leonard not the defensive player he was a couple of years ago? Because it seems like he isn't. Maybe it's just me because I don't claim to be a basketball expert. Football, I got pretty much everything you want. I watch basketball. I like basketball. But I'm not the guy I'm watching. Doesn't seem like the same Kawhi Leonard on the defensive end, and that's just me. So help me. Like, what happened to the Kawhi Leonard that I used to think was one of the best defensive players in the game? Because I'm not seeing that guy.
He is no longer being coached by Glenn Anton Rivers, and sometimes your defensive abilities are stagnated by the scheme that you're playing in, by literally the defensive scheme you're playing in. It does not, because you're right. You're dead on. Doc would design schemes to understand what Kawhi did well. And that's your job as the coach. Part of your job as a coach, put your players in a position to help them be as good as they can be. I don't think Tyronn Lue does that. I think that they hurt on the defensive end against really versatile players.
Yep.
Because of that. So I think some of that is coaching and sort of it's the offensive scheme that sets up the defense or doesn't set up the defense as it is with the Clippers that limits Kawhi's ability to dominate on defense. There were times in Toronto and even games last year he could dominate a game defensively without scoring big. Yep. And it's not done that this year. And I credit, if credit is the right word, I put that on Tyronn on Lue.
Well, if you guys got out forks, I have out the carving knife and the whetstone.
Yeah,
but
it's almost
yeah. We'll see how that goes. Let's see who else is interesting to talk about here. Consistency matters, Bill. Dame or Jokic?
Ooh.
Another good one, Mr. King. Gotta give you
Oh
credit.
wow, you're dropping bombs. I mean, if we're talking about consistency, not the highest heights that someone can reach, then I have to go Jokic. As much as I love Dame, and I love Dame, I've loved Dame since Weber State. I'm like, I remember watching him at Weber State. I'm like, how was this guy at Weber State? Oh my God. I mean, you mentioned your love for Isaiah Lord Thomas, and there were times when I watched him in college that I saw little flashes. Only Dame's an even better pure athlete, I guess, but which is saying something. But I was like, I saw some of that, right? That intensity, that toughness, that ability to do a little bit of everything, to be a passer and to be a defender and be even a good rebounder for a guy his size. Very complete player, even in college, and he's only gotten better. Obviously, he's improved his shooting, he's improved his decision making even more. But despite all that, I think Jokic is more predictable in terms of what you're going to get.
Yep.
There are times when Dame is literally unstoppable, right? We talk about the whole that dude theory, right? Ja has a little bit of that in him already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Times when he's on, it's like, well, I guess it's just not our night.
Enjoy the ride. Exactly.
It's just right. We're on the ride. This enjoy. Just wait for you can't get off till the ride's over. And Dame has nights like that where it's just nothing. There's nothing. You've got nothing. There's nothing you can do. You just, once again, you can tell your kids about that. You saw Dame go off for 60 or whatever. I mean, there's nothing you can do sometimes. And Jokic doesn't do that, but you get yeoman's work every night that, I don't even know who to compare him to. It's like Detlef Shrimp and Tim Duncan had a baby. Admittedly, it's a hard child to imagine, but
That's not a baby.
This is as close as I can get.
Comes out of the womb as an adult. That's not.
Now you might want to explain who Detlef Shrimp is to a lot of people. I mean,
well,
if they need an explanation, they don't deserve to get the joke. That's how I feel about that. Yeah.
But this player who's like so sort of dull in so many ways, but so exciting. If you love the dull, how about this? If you love, if you get excited about watching those like instructional, what do you call it? Those, remember when you were a kid? And then,
Tom Mansky. That's what you.
Right. Tom Mansky. When you were a kid, when you were in like for gym class where they you instructional, like here's how Gail Goodrich shoots the jumper.
Exactly.
Waves goodbye to the basketball.
Set your feet. Rotate.
Right. But it's sort of like watching like instructional, like, oh wow, that's exactly how you make that entry pass, there. That's like, wow, look at that pocket pass. Look at that man, look at him box out. Wow, look at him set screens. I mean,
look at him do all the boring non-athletic things in basketball.
Right, exactly. If you get excited about all the boring non-athletic things about basketball, then it's exciting watching Jokic. And Dame is at the whole other end of the spectrum in terms of watching experience. But for just sheer, I know what I'm going to get every night. And even if his shot isn't falling, which he usually is, but even if it isn't, he's going to do all these other things that are going to help us win. And Dame can do some of that too. But just Jokic first of all, his basketball IQ is, I don't know, who's higher? I don't know. I mean, Luka's in the conversation, I guess. And of course, obviously LeBron, but I mean, he's a top 3 basketball IQ, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just so. I keep bringing up terms like sound, but they keep coming to mind. There's really no different way to describe it other than sound and
fundamentals, right?
Right, fundamentals, sound, rock solid, but all this dependable, flavorless. But despite all of that, he really is one of the greatest players of this era. Yeah. It's just so weird to say that when you watch him play basketball and he almost unobtrusively, goes for 17, 11 and 6 with 3 blocks or whatever. And it's like, yawn. But yeah, I mean, I have to go Jokic just because his consistency. You said consistency.
Yeah.
You said greatness, I might go Dame, but you said consistency.
Yep.
Demetrius?
Hard to disagree with any of that. The difficulties of following Bill Carroll, right? But then we all know how that works. But I do. Here's the thing, and I'm going to cheat, right? If you are talking about you're building a team to play a season or building a dynasty, I'm all with Bill. I'm building Jokic. He makes other people better. Bill said all the stuff that you want to say, and the two things you can't say, right? He's fat and he's white. You can't say those things. You can't say those things. But to Bill's point, he is potentially, because it is. We get lulled to sleep. Like my grandmother will term the okie doke. We get okie doke because he does everything well. He does everything really, really well. The basic, simple stuff that you don't pay attention to in a game, he excels at it. Yeah. He passes as well as a big man since Sabonis or somebody like that.
Yeah, you gotta go way back.
Exceptional passer, right? He is exceptional setting screens, all the fundamental stuff, right? And he, to me, the key is, and I agree with Bill, it's Jokic, but I'm gonna make my Dame point. Jokic helps your team win basketball games. Period. Now, if you tell me I'm playing one game, do or die, well, forget that. If you tell me it's a tie game with 4 minutes left and I can have one player, I'm taking Dame's got a different gene. There's this gene in that whole DNA structure thing, that spinning thing. Everybody doesn't have it. Dame's got it. I contend Isaiah Lord Thomas had it. There are guys who have it. Yep. And it's just clutch is the word everybody uses, right? Dame has that. He's averaging 38 and 11. Imagine if he stays on. He can't keep doing this, can he? But imagine if he does. Then it is like fine. In the LeBron can't be MVP era, I picked Jokic 2 months ago, and I still stay with that because for that team and everything he does, fine. Yep. The answer to your question is Jokic. But if you're telling me any one of these questions, you need to entertain the hell out of somebody for a quarter of basketball. Yep. You're down 6 on the road. Give me Dame. It's a tie game. 8 seconds. You got one shot. Give me Dame. There's Dame time is not even a joke anymore. Dame time is incredibly accurate. There is a time in a game where you need that guy who has that gene. He's got it, and he's demonstrated it over and over. So it's a great question. The answer's still Jokic, but man, do I like watching Dame play basketball.
Okay, well let's talk about a veteran player that we all know brings a lot to the table, and that's CP3. CP3 is supposedly suited up for the game tonight and will play. So let's see. We have CP3 hobbled. We got the Lakers with a tied series. Demetrius, should the Suns rest CP3? And are we convinced that the Lakers can get a sweep in LA?
So 2 parts. I answer the second part first because I think whenever people are asked 2-part questions, they always answer the second part first. I don't know why, but I'm going to do it too. I believe the Lakers should and will win both games in LA because I would sit CP3. Here, your only shot is with 100% healthy Chris Paul. Yep. Right. So if you tell me sit him today and then he's healthy the rest of the series, then I sit him today and give myself a shot. I know that the injury, I heard a doctor, her name's Stefania Bell, she works for the 4-letter. She said the most difficult thing to do with this injury is to lift your arm. Well, shooting a basketball, from my experience, I haven't played in a while, requires you to absolutely lift your arm. So I had predicted, maybe it was a week ago, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I liked Phoenix in this series. None of that was contingent on this guy being hurt because he's what's the cliche I need, Bill? The engine, the straw that stirs the drink, the engine that makes it run, whatever cliche. It's Chris Paul. So if he's not 100 and the Lakers are getting healthier with each day that passes by, this gets tough. But any chance you have requires Chris Paul to be healthy. So if you tell me I sit him and I'm going to get a 95, 98% Chris Paul in a few days, he's not playing tonight. I don't think that's the case because part of being a leader like that, this fearless, relentless type of leader that he's been his whole career, his whole life probably, is you go out and you give everything you have. We love that about athletes, and Chris Paul's going to give him everything he has, and it's just not going to be enough. Because he is the straw, the engine. He's all of those things. Yeah. Obviously, tonight's the game that matters. We'll know. If it were me, I'd sit him. If I can get a substantially better Chris Paul the rest of the way, I sit him tonight. One game isn't going to end the series, particularly when you split, or you just need to split. So give me a more healthy Chris Paul in a few days. Give me a chance to win game 4. More importantly, you're going to need to win game 5 for sure. So I'd sit him to answer your question. And I do believe the Lakers. No, I do not believe the Lakers will speak. I think Phoenix is going to show up. Probably game 4 more than tonight, but I think Phoenix is going to show up. Tonight might be a juggernaut. Might be bad.
I asked would they sweep in LA.
So just the 2 games in LA.
Yeah.
Okay, the Lakers will get the 2 games in LA. Yeah. And then I think Phoenix goes home and gets a game, and then game 6 becomes the game. How is Chris Paul at game 6? So yeah, sorry. The Lakers will win both games in LA. The Phoenix will go back and win at home.
Okay. Bill, how important do you think is for the Suns to have a split in LA going back home?
Well, it's everything. If they can get a split in LA, it means a game 7. Most likely, it means they have about a 50% chance to win this darn thing. Not getting a split in LA means they have like a 20% chance of winning. I mean, it's a very different. The math is very different if they lose both games. And back to what was just said, and I'll agree once again with the gentleman from the north of the screen and the north of northern part of Chicago, by way of Michigan, that Chris Paul sets the tone. He is a tone setter. Chris Paul is the one that looks you in the eye and says you can do it when you aren't sure you can do it. Yeah. Chris Paul is the one that reminds you of the thing we can't do in this situation as much as the thing we have to do, right? He lets you know who not to foul, right? When you have to foul someone, but not that guy, right? There's all the things that he does that we can't even hear or see. We can guess. If we read lips, we might be able to tell. But he's basically when the clock is ticking, he's the coach, right? Yeah. The other guy coaches when the clock is stopped. When the clock is ticking, Chris Paul is the coach. Make no mistake about it. So on a young team that hasn't ever been, for the most part, hasn't been deep in the playoffs before, having Chris Paul on the floor, obviously as healthy as humanly possible, is super important. If for some reason he's out there and he's nowhere close to healthy, but he's still able to guide players, it's helpful, but it's not the same because he's not a threat to score, and he's probably also a liability on defense. So that's a tough situation because he's going to want to play. He's going to tell them I'll be fine. I'll take the magic shot or whatever it is. And he's going to want to go out there and grit it out and be a warrior. If you can somehow talk him into resting, it might help you more. But it's so hard to do, especially with a great player whose greatest contribution is leadership. Yep. Right. And he feels like even if I can't really play as well, I can still lead. Yep. So, yeah, that's a tough one.
Hey, we shall see. That's Bill. I'm gonna. Demetrius. Once again, you're gonna have to follow Bill. So that's okay. Bill, one game, one night. Ja or Trey?
Wow, he is on fire tonight, isn't he, Bill? This is just good work right there. You can have that one. You can go first. I'm gonna steal your
coach. Here's what I will say. I believe that Ja is a better athlete and a better all-around basketball player. The thing is, there are nights where Trey is almost Steph Curry. right? I mean, that's basically been the scouting report on him since he was 15 years old. Hey, he's almost Steph Curry. And there are nights when shots that he has no business taking go down with barely touching the nylon. It looks like he's taking 31 footers. It's it's nothing. But Ja is the better passer. He's the better defender, the better rebounder. So if it's one of those, we got to win this game to save the hostages or whatever it is. Whatever the scenario was, you explained it.
His lives are based on a basketball game,
right? Or whatever it was, right? We have to defeat the Monstar, to retain control of Earth, or whatever it is you're talking about.
To deploy or not to deploy?
Right, exactly. I'm going to take just because of the other stuff, right? Beyond the ludicrous shooting stuff, and Ja's not a bad 3-point shooter. He's an inconsistent 3-point shooter, right? I just saw him in the game when they knocked out Golden State. I think he was 5 of 10 or something like that, which is good for anybody. It's great for Ja. But that's just like Thursday. If you're Trae Young, he goes from 3, just because. So it's a little different for him. But just because of all the other stuff, I'm gonna take Ja Morant. But there are just some nights when Trae Young can beat you by himself. But in the scenario you're presenting, because of every other part of a basketball game besides shooting, I'm gonna take Ja.
Yeah. So sometimes Bill makes it easy to follow him because Bill's correct. He said it. Ja's the better player, totally. And I will do it this way. Trae Young is almost Steph Curry. Ja Morant is 100% absolutely Ja Morant. So there's no almost to it. And he listed he's better all around game.
Yeah.
Trae can entertain you. I think Ja's going to win you basketball games. And your question was who wins you a game. I think Ja is going to give you a better chance to win the basketball game. The crowd might enjoy the Trae show more, potentially, but Ja's going to win you a basketball game.
The Ja show is also pretty good too.
The Ja show is fantastic, by the way. So I love the way they attack the basket, but Ja just does more on the floor. If I had a choice, I'd take Dame. but I don't believe that's how this works. So I'm gonna agree with Bill and take Ja.
Okay, Donna, I see Don is down there in the queue, and so I'm going to get to this question anyway because it's just fun. Demetrius, we see D Rose. He scores 26 points as the flea market ties the series at 1-1. Is this a 7-game series?
I think it is. And I the gratuitous mention of the Pistons, Derrick Rose started the season as a Detroit Piston, in case people. And I'm not sure who this dude in New York is and where that's not the dude that was in Detroit, but I'm not doing that. That's not what this podcast is about. I think the Knicks haven't gotten a full game from Julius Randle yet, which is interesting. I think that we talked about Trae Young, his propensity to at moments be almost Steph Curry. He can be that dude. He can cause problems. But I think if Derrick Rose continues, simple for me, if Rose continues to play like this, and Julius Randle, who in the second half of that game looked like the comeback player of the year or most improved, I don't know what the award was called. The Knicks, and I think it will go 7. So to answer your question, yep, I think it'll be 7. I think it'll be 7 really good games. And I like the Knicks. I actually do, because I think that as a team, they're those Bill Carroll glue guys that in the playoffs help you win basketball games. And I think the Knicks have more of those guys. And I just think if Randle plays like he's been playing and Rose plays like this, I'll take the Knicks. I mean, unless Don thinks Atlanta's going to win, then I'll change my mind next week. But right now, I'm going with the Knicks.
Going with the Knicks. Let's see. The Lakers turned down Julius Randle. the Pistons, the Pistons decided that they didn't need Derrick Rose. So, so I mean, like I said, Bill, the flea market here. I mean, these are guys like, hey, those little figurines look nice. Could I get 3 for $1? I mean, but so, Bill, what's your thoughts here on the Knicks?
So, the first time I laid eyes on Derek Martell Rose,
nice, well done.
When my wife's so her youngest brother, her only brother, the youngest of her siblings and her only brother, had a son who was attempting to play basketball at Simeon, where she had also gone as well. And John Jr., or John the Third, I guess, actually, because her brother's John Jr. So John the Third, John Watson the Third, was John, as we called him, was attempting to play basketball there. And I'm like, going there to see him play, and he's not playing. He's sitting there on the bench. But I did get to see this other kid play, and oh my God. Oh my God. I was a huge Kevin Johnson fan. I kept thinking I'm watching a better version of Kevin Johnson than this kid's like 15. And I mean, his explosiveness when he was young. Oh my God. And he had a pretty decent basketball IQ even then, and it just kept going higher and higher. But his explosiveness was just otherworldly. I mean, he was at we talked about Russell Westbrook when he first entered the league. It was that level of explosiveness. A guy could, dunk off of either foot, off the wrong foot, dunks from angles where a dunk shouldn't have been possible. Like he can't take off from, I'm okay. Maybe
apparently you can't
take off from there. Okay, well, how do you get to? Oh, all right. And just the ability to get from parts of the court to other parts of the court at a rate of speed that was Iverson-esque at times. Tough kid, also, like mentally and physically tough, along with all the other stuff. And I thought this guy's the next one, right? He's the next. He's the next. I mean, not just the next great player from Chicago, and I was thinking that too, but like he could be the next, the next, right? I mean, up there with the guys we were talking about, up there with LeBron and Steph and all the guys we just talked about, he had a chance to be one of those dudes, to be that dude. And then a series of injuries and other stuff and falling a little bit out of love, even, I think, with the game at one point, made him to a very different guy. And then he fell back in love with the game.
Yep.
And I think it's partially he feels physically better than he has in a long time. I think that's part of it. I think for whatever reason, the Knicks of all places feel good to him. Which it sounds weird to say, the Knicks feeling like a good, comfortable place to be a player, but it feels like for the first time in many years, even though he doesn't have the same physical ability, he's feeling the game the way he used to feel the game. And the game flows through him the way it used to flow through him, even though without the 40, 39 average vertical leap and all the ridiculous speed and all the stuff. All that stuff isn't there. But the feel for the game and the love is back. And he's always had tremendous skill. In fact, I think he's increased his skill level despite the drop off in physical ability. The Knicks are a dangerous team. It feels weird saying that, but the Knicks are legitimately a dangerous team. They can definitely win this series. I'm not saying they will, but they certainly can. There's no reason they can't win this series. They legitimately can win this series. I don't think they can go beyond this series, but I could be wrong.
Don, you are a Derrick Rose fan. What do you think about the 26 he put up last night? And any chance that the Knicks can take the Hawks in 7 or less?
Well, last week we talked about this game. I said this is going to be a good series. I mean, no team is that much better than the other, and so I think very well could be a 7-game series. I would probably, maybe give a slight edge to New York, but I mean, it could go either way, to be honest.
Well, I think since Don came on, I should give you guys fair warning. This is our last show of the month because Monday is Memorial Day.
Yep.
So, therefore, tonight, time really isn't a factor. So, let's go on from there. Anyway, Don, and I know you like to go to sleep early, so
I'm good. Hey, I've been having connectivity issues. I was trying to get on earlier, and it wouldn't click. It wouldn't click on, so I kept trying to refresh. Finally, just rebooted my computer and was able to stay on. So I'm good. I'm good. I'm not tired tonight.
Okay. Then,
caffeine.
Well, anyway, just letting you guys know. Anyway, okay. So, Don, I'm going to start with you here since you these other guys have been monopolizing my time until you got here. But the 76ers, the Nets, and the Bucks all have a 2-0 series lead. Don, should I get the brooms out for any of these series?
I think if I were in Vegas and throwing the money on the table, I would say Milwaukee is going to sweep. After what they did tonight, I was catching the end of it. Of all the ones you're telling, I think that's the one that will be the sweep. There may not be a close game in that series. I don't know. But they opened the can of whoop ass tonight. That's for sure.
And closed it. Not only did they open it, they closed it. Yeah, they didn't just open it. They sprinkled it, poured it. Anyway, Demetrius is.
I agree. I think that I thought Miami would show better tonight, but in reality, as it turns out, I was just right all along. When I said Milwaukee was, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'm going to break my shoulder like CP3, patting myself on the back, saying I picked Milwaukee coming out of the East. I still like them. I will credit Bill, who months ago said he liked the supporting cast in Milwaukee, particularly pointing out Chris Middleton. And I think people slept on Drew Holiday. That's what I think it is. People slept on Drew Holiday. Milwaukee is a really good basketball team. Brook Lopez is playing like a 7-footer should play now instead of trying to be, long range Brook Lopez. That's a good team and they're well coached. So that's the one that I think could be a sweep. I don't think Boston has played their best ball and I don't trust Philadelphia. So Russ is pissed off right now. So somebody's getting at work Saturday night in DC. And I think Boston has more that they can do. I don't really know though. I'm trying to stay away from Bill's boys. I don't like talking about them. I'm not happy with them at all. That they're playing well, it's kind of bothering me. But I think Russ is going to bring some next level stuff Saturday in DC. And I still think Boston has another level they can get to. So no, I don't think the other two series would be a sweep. I do think Philly and New Jersey. Philly and I just dated myself. I think Philly and Brooklyn will win those series. I do think Milwaukee will sweep Miami though.
Okay, Bill.
Well, I guess it's unanimous. I really think that, people always throw in terms of like revenge tour or whatever, but I really think Milwaukee has something to prove, which sounds weird for a team that's had, decent level of success, but
sure.
People sort of look at them like, right? Like everyone with Stephen A. Smith and whatever else debate, whatever, they almost never bring up the Bucks. They're talking about these other teams. Can so and so such and such? Can Brooklyn blah blah blah? Can such and such? Can the Lakers? And just quietly, a team that's not quite a super team, but it's not far off.
Exactly.
Out there slaying people and. Like no one's really paying much attention. They're going to sweep this one and maybe sweep the next one. This is a really good basketball team that's kind of pissed off. And they really want people to pay attention to how good they are.
Yep.
And now Giannis doesn't have to carry the entire load himself, right? No offense to the previous versions of this team. But when the going got rough, I was putting 3 dudes on Giannis, and it was working. Right?
Yep.
I mean, we're playing 2 guys are defending the rest of the roster. Basically, one guy sort of hanging near the hoop, and one guy sort of buzzing the perimeter, and 3 guys on Giannis, and it was working, right? So the fact that that's not going to work anymore means that this team, which is always a dangerous team, even before they made the changes they made, is now up the ante. I think I'm still sticking with them as a team I think comes out of the East. I said that before the season. I'm sticking with them.
Yeah. And if you remember, we did discuss the importance of the trade for Drew Holiday on the show.
Yep.
I think that made a tremendous importance to the way that.
Well, absolutely, because your old team had Middleton as your second guy and like Bledsoe as your third guy. Now you slide Drew Holiday in as your a legit 2 guy, and Middleton gets to be a very good 3 now. And it's a whole different. No disrespect to Eric Bledsoe, Drew Holiday that's a big trade. That's a big move.
Demetrius, is it time for a change in the Celtics front office, or maybe Brad Stevens, the coach?
Part of me wants to say yes, but I think the answer is actually no. I think Jaylen Brown's injury hurt them for sure, but I think they've got a good young core, right? They've got it, and they still have capital. My problem with Danny Ainge is the stuff he has not done, not the things he's done. I like the roster as it's constructed, and I actually think Brad Stevens is a good young coach. He's had opportunities at the trade deadline to move some of this metaphorical draft capital and get actually good players, and he's not done it. I don't know why, or even move one of the young players and bring in a veteran. And for some reason, the last 2 years around trade deadline, as much talk as there has been about guys that have gotten moved, there's always a conversation about Boston didn't do anything. Boston didn't do anything. They've got all this capital and didn't do anything. And I think there's moves. I mean, I don't know if Donovan Mitchell is really mad in Utah or not, but that can be rectified. And there's Paul George. Would he move? I don't know. So there's things to do. My biggest issue in Boston is the standing pat and not making moves. You can make this team better by using that draft capital to acquire good players, and they're out there and they can be gotten. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell will actually move, but there are players. And if he were to move, by the way, Oklahoma City has a ton of draft capital, and Donovan Mitchell is much more likely to end up in Oklahoma City or Houston than he is in Boston. But they have a mix of young talent and draft capital, and they don't seem to utilize that as a vehicle to improve their team. That's my big. But to answer your question, no. I think not at coach, and I think you have to credit Danny Ainge that he's managed this roster pretty well. I just think he needs to pull that one big move off. So I don't know that anybody needs to be fired. They've got a solid group of young players, and they can get better. They will get better, I think. So no, I don't think anybody needs to be fired.
Wow, Donovan Mitchell. I don't know. You might be getting some really bad Twitter feeds from Donovan Mitchell. Houston or Oklahoma? Wow. Okay. All right.
Those are teams with draft capital and cap space that can take his contract and pay for him.
I mean, but he's already in Oklahoma. I mean, in Utah. I mean, well,
I think that was doing Donovan in favors.
Don, what do you think? To be or not to be, Oklahoma or Utah? Go ahead, Don.
Thinking about Donovan Mitchell in Houston now, man.
I thought we were talking about Boston.
we are. We totally digress. I totally digress.
Yeah, Boston. I like the roster. I don't think it. I think they just need a little bit more time to gel. Kind of like wine, you have to let it age a little bit more and to get the best product. So I'm not willing to throw them out just yet. I don't think they need to make any drastic changes. They might need to fine tune. So you get some players that can come in and play different roles that they need. But as far as firing coaches or making big changes in the front office, I don't think they're ready for that just yet.
Bill?
So we're starting with the Celtics.
Yes, we're starting with the Celtics.
I know people like firing people, right? I mean, I know that's kind of where we are now, where people just get fired. We talked about Glenn Anton Rivers, getting fired for whatever.
Right.
I mean, like Brad Stevens didn't forget how to coach. Like I know it's a cliche, but he's a really good coach. He's one of the better X's and O's guys, probably a top 6 X's and O's guy in the whole league. I don't know if he has all of the right players at certain positions. And it was mentioned, obviously, Jaylen Brown's injury is probably the real reason this team has been sort of not hitting on all cylinders. I would probably tweak the roster as opposed to firing Ainge or firing Stevens. I don't think this is a front office issue or a coaching issue. I think they could use a little more quality depth at certain positions and maybe, once again, one more legit, like second, third option kind of guy. We just talked about Mr. Middleton a second ago, right? A guy who's sort of in that kind of range as a player where he's not a superstar. And he's not even maybe your number 2 or not consistently your number 2. A guy who could maybe be your number 2 when your real number 2 is hurt or is in foul trouble, right? Can do it temporarily, but it's really your number 3. And they could once again use. I keep bringing up Bam Adebayo or somebody like that, right? A guy who's. I mean, everybody I guess could use a Bam Adebayo. There are more Bam Adebayos, but a guy that does that stuff, who does your rebounding and gets some putbacks and plays defense against guys who can hurt you on the interior. But I don't think it's a front office. I don't think it's a front office. I don't think it's a coaching issue.
All right, guys. Well, now let's get to some of the hard stuff because I'm going to talk about the NFL. Mm-hmm. And this first question is it's a hard question because I'm trying to think here. And okay, well, here's the question. Eugene Chung is being told, or he was told, that he wasn't the right minority. The Eagles have just promoted a woman to one of the highest positions in the NFL. Eric Bieniemy can't get a job. So, Bill, what's the right minority here?
Well, first of all, and I don't know. I mean, I've been watching Eugene Chung since, this makes me feel old. Since his days at Virginia Tech, and I guess if I remember correctly, when he made all first team All ACC, he may have been the first Asian American lineman to ever get All ACC honors, if I remember something correctly at the time. But he is a rising star in the coaching ranks. I believe he will get his opportunity, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I don't think Miss Suleiman getting her opportunity or what's happened in Denver is a bad thing. Like, I think a rising tide, right? If it's no longer the same people getting jobs over and over again and being passed around to the same people all the time, that's a good thing. Now, Eric Bieniemy, we've heard like 111 different theories about why he didn't get a job, right? Oh, maybe it's interview well. Oh, maybe it's the stuff that happened back in his days at Colorado. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's right. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of all the maybes about Eric Bieniemy. I'm exhausted. I'm sure he's got to be beyond exhausted because it's him. It's happening to. He should get a job. I mean, that's obvious. And I would like to know more about what was said to Eugene Chung, like under what circumstance, like how did someone say, were they interviewing him? They're like, or thinking, hey, we just looked down and noticed you're Asian. I mean, like I'm trying to understand how this happened, right? While we were reviewing your resume, it came to our attention. Like, I'd like to know the context of this conversation that he had and with whom he had it, where they apparently said this. and I'm not saying. I think what he's saying. I think he's expressing something he feels, and someone may even said this to him, but it doesn't mean that's why he didn't get the job. I'd love to know, like, more about exactly what went on in this conversation, quite frankly, because right now it's sort of out of context. But I don't believe he's still a very young coach, and he's, like I said, a rising star. I believe he's going to get his chance. If we can stop hiring the same people all the time for all the same jobs, it will eventually allow people like Eugene Chung and Eric Bieniemy, and I mean Leslie Frazier certainly deserves another bite at the apple. Eric Studesville deserves to at least be made an offensive coordinator. He's been known as one of the better offensive minds in football for close to 15 years. He's been a interim coach before, interim head coach before. I could go on and on. There's a bunch of people who deserve a shot. And I hope that rather than dusting off Norv Turner again or whatever it is that people do, I hope that they give one of these other younger and frankly more deserving coaches a chance, either their first shot or in case of people like Todd Bowles and Leslie Frazier. Those are guys that have earned a second shot.
Don, you and Eric Bieniemy have crossed paths. What's your thoughts on Mr. Chung's observations? Or, I mean, since he hasn't said what team it is, we can't break it down to a specific source. But what were your thoughts on that, Don?
Well, before I answer, let me just say, just kind of build on what Bill said. These teams that they keep, like you said, keep hiring the same people. A few years ago, it was like Wade Phillips was going ding, 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 and failing everywhere he went. The Rex Ryan and his brother, same thing. Ding, 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 you know, what the hell? You know, get some youth in there, and I think the NFL is doing that. You know, you have Shanahan, little Shanahan in San Francisco. You got what's his name, Pretty Boy in over at
Oh. Yes, right.
Little Shanahan and Pretty Boy.
Kingsbury.
I got you.
I drove new brothels from my house.
That was great. Pretty Boy.
Yeah. So, you get these young guys.
Sounds like the game that couldn't shoot straight. But go ahead.
That was well done.
And, probably Lincoln Riley will probably make the jump from Oklahoma to NFL. So we got to get some youth. And this is where you get Eugene Chung. I mean, I think his time is right around the corner. I don't know the whole state of the right minority. I mean, I don't know who said it, what was said in the context. Was it a joke, something said joking and passing, or were they being serious? I know that in NFL – I can't think of any Asian coaches. Did Norm Chow ever get in the NFL?
Norm Chow was an offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, that's right. He was.
And got the best, by far the best out of Vince Young anyone else ever got.
Exactly. Yes. But I forgot about Norm Chow. But so it when you're talking about minorities, Asians in NFL, that's a true freaking minority. But hopefully he'll get that he'll get a chance to dance and make things happen. I think he's, like I said, he's right there on the verge. He's getting interviewed or he's getting talked about, so that's always a good sign. I would like to see more of this come out just to see, because I'm curious, I'm nosy. I want to see who said it and how it was said.
Yep.
I agree with everybody. I want to know who said it and not necessarily how it said, but if he went public with this, Demetrius, what's the chances of him getting a job now?
I think they're high, actually. I think this is great. It all starts with discourse. It's the dirty house. You don't know how dirty it is until you open the curtains and let the sun in and you see all the dirt. I think that Don makes a great point. It is youth is a big part of it, but it is just a shift in the process. People the Fritz Pollard Alliance is doing great work, right? And they will continue. I almost want to laugh at it. Like I'm not laughing at AAPI discrimination because that's ridiculous. But I can't really comment on this until what both guys said. What's the context? Did a team really say to him, "We think you're a great coach. We're really thinking about giving you the job, except," right? No, it can't have been that, right? It has to. I need the context, but it all starts with discourse. So the fact that we're on the Sports Crib talking about an Asian coach getting discriminated, it's on all the networks. That's the first step, and I think it'll tie into what Don said about that. Right now, the move is to youth. It's Pretty Boys and Lil Shanahan and McVay, right? It's those dudes now. I don't know what the right minority is. I'm more curious about that because it isn't black dudes. Who's the right minority that are getting all these damn jobs? I missed that part. So it's almost funny to me, but I also think it is perfect because it needs to be discussed. It needs to be brought to light. And I think it has been, and it'll change. All these things will fall in. The NFL, more than anything, is a copycat league. Sean McVay's success made Pretty Boy a household name. Like, he literally was just like, I know Sean McVay. We had dinner in the same restaurant once. You got the job. That's all it took. And so, like, now the moves are just going to be that. When someone has success, and I still think Lil Shanahan and Pretty Boy is the best part of this podcast so far. So, I can't get past it. It was too good. I think they're a trend league. And right now the trend is young dudes, young, hot. Lincoln Riley's going to get a job soon, like he said. I think the retread thing is gone. I think this forces discourse, and that's always the first step. We got to at least be willing to talk about, wait a minute, this guy's a really good coach, full stop. He's a really good coach. And then challenge somebody to say something more. So I think that it is. The context is important. I hesitate to really dig deep without the context. But I think it is a good thing. And we're going to find out who it is. We're going to find out who it is. And they'll get marked, and the league will get a mark to a degree. But ultimately, I think it'll drive the league to look at policy, written and unwritten. It'll drive owners to think about what they do in their businesses. So I think it's good that it's good that it's coming out. It's a weird comment though.
Okay, well, let's talk about a weird individual instead of a weird comment. Demetrius, Alex Smith said that it was inexcusable the way the Packers have treated Aaron Rodgers. The last I looked, this was a business. Did I miss something, Demetrius?
Mr. King, you're my guy. You know you're my guy, right? But yes, you missed something. What you missed is when you're running a business, there is this idea. Treat everybody the same. I've been in business. Hell no. You do not treat everybody. You can be fair. You can act with integrity, but you do not treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with Alex Smith. What the hell's that's Aaron Rodgers. And you guys know, look at this thing above my shoulder. Me speaking highly of somebody that plays for that team, and this particular dude has broken my heart so many times. On my own personal podcast, I don't say his name. I call him He Who Shall Not Be Named. I don't even use his name on my podcast. That's how I feel about him. But at the end of the day, he is
Tom
who
Brady
he is.
must be a bad word on your podcast too.
He is who he is, and he is in that organization. They've got to know the hierarchy in their organization. And as much as they like to say it's president of the organization, general manager, head coach, coordinator, quarterback, you can do that in Detroit. That's probably a hierarchy for my team. That team, it's the city of Green Bay and all the people with their plaques and blah, 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 blah. And then probably Aaron Rodgers. I can't even pronounce the name of the GM. Now, Bill probably can, and I'll leave that to him. I'm not saying that. I'm going to call him Pretty Boy. That's what I'm going to call him. I know it's a younger dude, and I think his first name is Brian. That's all you're getting from me on that guy. Dude, who's more valuable to the Green Bay Packers, Pretty Boy Brian or Aaron Rodgers? You tell me. That's the crux of your question. That's the crux of what Alex Smith is saying. They've got to know, whoever they is, and they might be, I still think his name is Mark Murphy, the actual shot caller in that organization. Who are you picking? Pretty Boy Brian or Aaron Rodgers? Because that's what Alex Smith is. You've got to know whatever you got to do. Once you made the mistake of drafting, fill in a name. Jordan Love's not a bad guy. It has nothing to do with him. When you've made that decision and you recognize, oh my God, we upset Aaron Rodgers, you can just play. This is a business, whatever, and watch him win a Super Bowl in Denver next year. If you want, or go deep in the playoffs while you are competing with the Lions for 4th place in the North, you can do that. That's an option. That's a way to run your business. Or you could sit down with him and say, we weren't trying to, bother you. This is our plan. This is what we're thinking. This guy's going to sit for 3 or 4 years while you do what you do. And we're going to pay you well. What's the problem? And if you can't work it out, you trade him and get a bunch of draft picks and live with the consequences. But I think that, put it this way, if he was a Detroit Lion, they would not have handled it that way because we've never had the luxury of having one of the best two. As much as I love number 9, we've never had the luxury of having a guy of that caliber. So you have to treat my short version is when you have someone special, you have to treat them special. And if you don't, then they're going to be special to somebody else. And I think that's where they are.
Don, I'm not going to let Bill take all your thunder. Go ahead.
Well, the statement that Alex Smith said, why are they not treating him, right? I mean, and I agree that for so many years, Aaron Rodgers is the franchise. He will be the franchise as long as he's healthy. How long is that going to be? I don't know. Like I said, I've talked before. He's getting a little long in the tooth, but he's not as pretty as he used to be. But
he only won the MVP this past season, right? He's still pretty hot. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm talking about looks now.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you were talking about play on the field. I thought we were using metaphors. Sorry.
No, he's always had a little long face, so I don't know.
Oh, I agree with you on that point. If we're going to go down that rabbit hole, I'm with you.
But, Aaron Rodgers is, like I say, he's the franchise. He is who he is. He hasn't always treated his teammates the way that he should be treated. I mean, it's a give and take thing. You give what you give, and you receive what you receive what you give. You give what you receive. So maybe he could, eat a little humble pie and be go have his way to be a little bit more outgoing with his teammates, the city, his family.
We're talking about Aaron Rodgers, right? I've never seen that from him. That would you're probably right. I don't expect we're getting that from that guy.
No. Like he said, Bill, we are talking about 1 and 5 Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've watched Aaron Rodgers bring games back from games that had flatlined, right? Games that where you drag the body out of the lake. There's no way, and then he comes up with the adrenaline needle through the sternum into the heart, defibrillators. I mean, say what you will about whatever you think about his personality and his arrogance and his whatever. First of all, how many great, all-time great quarterbacks weren't arrogant? Think hard, right? I mean, Roger Staubach might be the list, people. And he had a little bit of arrogance, but not, for a top-level quarterback, not that much. But think of all the really great quarterbacks and try to think of how many of them weren't arrogant. There's not a very long list of really great elite-level quarterbacks who weren't arrogant. But he has managed to keep his team in games or help his team win games that, when they run the little win probability thing, it's 0.0021%, and they leave there with the victory. So somebody talked about the clutch gene or whatever. Say what you will about what's happened in the playoffs and what's happened in this situation, that happened in that situation. He has managed to turn games around where there was no chance of winning before, right? Or virtually no chance of winning. And he's done it with a team that has been, how do I put it?
1-5 in the
You know how
playoffs.
you put it.
Well, I mean, I'll put it this way. Think of how few draft picks, particularly high draft picks, they've spent on skill position players, right? I mean, their starting running back was a 5th rounder, right? They spent a 2nd on a running back, which is sort of interesting, but for a backup running back, it's been a 2nd. I think Devontae was a 2nd rounder, I believe, but everybody else amongst the receiving and tight end core was either a 3rd-day pick or undrafted, right? I mean, it's an astonishing collection of players that, with the exception of Devontae Adams, were guys that were barely given a chance to make the league to some extent. I mean, Robert Tonyan went to Indiana State originally as a quarterback, moved to wide receiver, and eventually was turned into a tight end. Equanimeous St. Brown was a 4 or 5-star recruit, but never really became what he's supposed to be in college. Devontae Adams, I think, was a 2 or a 3-star recruit. I mean, their receivers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling was a 1 or a 2-star recruit who sort of came from out of nowhere. Like, these are not, studs. His offensive line has some good players, but they've lost some of the better ones, including Corey Linsley. I mean, there's not a lot of elite talent around him on that side of the ball, right? You have one really, really good wide receiver, and we don't know how good he'd be without Aaron Rodgers, but he's really good with Aaron Rodgers. It's sort of like we'll see what Michael Thomas is. Well, he's sort of seen Michael Thomas a little bit without Drew Brees, but this is even more to an extent. Like, he's able to do more than Drew was. So, this is not a team that can overwhelm you with talent, right? I mean, let's just be clear about that. Their talent is middle of the road or less, with the exception of the man who will not be named, the mysterious stranger, right, with the golden right arm. So I'm not saying that it's all about him, but it's mostly about him. And if you can't keep the one player that keeps you in contention happy, I don't know where you can put the blame where you want, right? You can put the blame on front office. You can put the blame on a coach. You can put the blame on the player if you feel that. But the player simply wanted the team to say, we are committed to you for another 2 years or whatever it is. He's one of those guys that play till he's 50. He's not trying to, keep up with TB12. He's playing to play probably 2, maybe 3 more years. And I don't think that would be that hard to do, quite frankly. But this feels like a, blanking contest, right? Where you've whipped yours out. Now I've whipped mine out. Now we're measuring. Now we're this. If humbling yourself,
you woke Don up.
Right. Either side could humble themselves.
Boy.
Right. Right. Exactly. But either side could choose to humble themselves. Yeah. And it's deep too. Yes. We all know the joke. But my point is that either side could choose to humble themselves. Right. But playing chicken with he who will not be named has proven well for his own mother. Okay. So I'm just pointing this out, that when he says this is the line, don't cross it. If you step across that line, he's shown that he's not likely to bend the knee, right? You may want to think hard before you put any ultimatums out there with a guy that doesn't seem to back down, right? Anybody when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, what do you have to lose by saying, you know what, you were right? We're going to extend your contract for a couple of years. Here's money what are you going to do with this money anyway, right? I mean, who else on your team is a guy that you would throw that money at? Name another superstar on the team. Yep. Okay? So there's enough blame to go around, but this is still fixable. And it just comes down to they go and do what they have to do to fix it, right?
Did Bill just turn this into a domestic situation? I mean,
well, it is a domestic situation.
That's exactly That's what I said last week. We moved your replacement in the guest room, and I took your car money and set her up. I got my next girlfriend dinner.
Yeah, but I don't think Jordan loves the next girlfriend. But
Don would say Jordan Love ain't that pretty.
Bill, Julio Jones. who's calling?
Well, I mean, a lot of teams are going to call. And frankly, the team we just discussed should see if they should at least make a phone call. I mean, now think of what Devontae Adams could do if, no offense to Marquez Valdez-Scantling or Equanimeous St. Brown or anybody else who sounds like an 18th century lawyer, you might want to name. But even think of if that was instead number 11 on that other side of the field, right? Now, how different is Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do all the things you were going to do on defense now. You can't bring some of that help over the top all the time against Devontae Adams. You're not freeing up that safety to blitz or to do certain things because you've got it. You essentially now have to either play a lot of too deep, right? I mean, like there's only so many different ways you can defend that if that's what the situation is. So that's one of the teams I would think should at least make a phone call. And then teams that have the cap room and could make it happen, the Colts. The Colts have a good roster and a shockingly high amount of cap room. They should make a phone call. And no offense to any of the receivers they have, but none of those guys are Julio Jones. And they're not far off from being a contender. I mean, once again, if Carson Wentz plays well. But if Carson Wentz plays even above average football, and I think Julio might help, that's a team that's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah.
They have a top-tier young running back. They have an awesome offensive line. They have a really good, solid defense with good players at every level of the defense. They have a really good coach. Their front office is doing a good job. I mean, this would be the cherry on top, quite frankly, if they were to get him.
Yeah.
Other teams,
that's the answer. That's the answer, Bill.
Well, I think that's probably the one that makes the most sense.
I'm going to agree with you right there. That's the answer.
You know, Demetrius, I know for you that might be a nightmare, so I'm going to leave you for last here. Don, what's your thoughts on Julio Jones?
Well, you know, when Julio was spotted wearing a Cowboys shirt, a lot of people started talking, right? And I could see Jerry Jones because he's like, ooh, shiny object. You know, he's – but Julio Jones said he wants to go to a team that is going to win. So that eliminates anything in Texas. Unless you can take a secret identity and come play for the same Houston State Bearcats, but you know that's not going to happen. But you know, there's not a team in the NFL that is not saying Julio, 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 come to me,
right?
You know, if he wants to win now, you know, you go to Tampa Bay, you go to Kansas City, you go to Baltimore. I think Baltimore. If you want to be a little patient, you want to bide your time, you go to Detroit, perhaps. But you know, you want to go to a team that has a future. But again, as a receiver, he's not a spring chicken either. So. You know, he's got to be careful who he chooses, but I guarantee you there's a team out there. I can imagine him being in Phoenix with the Cardinal. I mean, that I think that would be a good matchup right there. So who knows? But when you run that Dallas thing, I just imagine Jerry Jones just like losing his shit because.
But I mean, isn't Dallas have like 14 cents left against the cap?
Exactly.
Yeah, but Jerry Jones would sacrifice. You know,
right.
Oh, I love Dak. I love Dak. Bye, Dak. Well,
Demetrius, we got to come to you. Would you rather see him in Honolulu Blue than a Cheesehead?
No, we're not ready. Right, we're not ready for him. We can't commit that kind of cap space where we are as a team. We need to develop the infrastructure of our team before we go get the shiny object. So while I love his talent and his game, both guys hit the two teams I thought of. The call needs to come from Indianapolis, Indiana. That is the best option for them. He for lack of a better term, he protects Wentz. He gives, you cannot now, you have to focus on something else. In the meeting room on Wednesday, that is a few more minutes. You're not thinking about how you're going to, beat Carson Wentz, because you got to focus on what do we do about Julio. Now your safety's got to worry, and it makes other players better. It slides your current one down to a 2. Indy is a great place. The other one, Don hit, is Baltimore. Now your safety can't shadow Lamar. They've got to worry about who. It's a legit weapon. Those are the 2 places. Better than now. New England could go all in and just say, look, just my excuse to say Stephen Belichick. New England could go all in and say, yep, we're going after him too. I don't know if they have the cap space or the capital to make the trade. Indy has both. And I think Baltimore can get it done. Indy to me makes sense. Baltimore would be the scariest one because I don't know that they're missing anything else. You add him, they're really complete. Indy still has Wentz at quarterback. Outside of that, to Bill's point, all 3 levels of their defense are solid. Indy's a really good team right now. They add Julio, that might be the piece where Kansas City, we got to have a discussion. But I would say the same thing for Baltimore. So those would be the 2 teams that make the most sense to me.
Sending Demetrius and Don, sending to the Ravens. I wonder, SPORTSKRIB Jail. Facebook has one. I wonder, I'm going to have to think about that.
We forgot who runs this, Don. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I did say Indy first, though. So.
Yeah, well, okay. Don.
It's only Don go to jail. Send Don.
Don, you might be on probation. Anyway.
Put me in jail. I just demand my conjugal visit. That's all.
We didn't say the clowns, at least.
Okay. Don, should a quarterback, and I'm not going to show throw no names out here, but should a quarterback admit that he didn't know the playbook?
Hell no. You don't make that public. Your teammates in the locker room, they know it. The coach in the press box, they sure as hell know it. But don't go telling the sports writers and your fan base, I don't know, do you? I think he's supposed to run the post. No, don't do that shit. No.
Hey, we got Don really emotional tonight.
You know Don Hayes is going to be on the SPORTSKRIB talking about you. Why would you admit it?
Well, all my years coaching, high school playbook's about that thick, college is about that thick, and there's volumes in the NFL, I think. But no, quarterback is usually your most intelligent guy on the team. You need to find out what coverage they're in. What your checkoffs are, all that. But since they say, well, I don't know the playbook, that's especially in the NFL, you should know. NFL.
It's just
they give an intelligence test. It's called the Wonderlic. They give the test. You should know your shit. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think we're after 9. It's almost 10 o'clock in the Central Time Zone. So this is technically after dark. I think we're fine.
Bill, you've been studying and talking about different players all the way since some of them have been in high school.
Sure.
What do you think about a quarterback that doesn't know a playbook?
Okay, well let's make it clear. He's not the first. He won't be the last.
No.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the word admit.
That might be the big part. But you and I both watched young Terry Bradshaw. Okay, there have been a lot of young quarterbacks that struggle to learn the playbook, and Vince Young, we mentioned him earlier in the game. There's been lots of guys who struggled with the playbook. However, let's just get this established. NFL playbooks are usually needlessly complex. Let's be honest about that too. The last version of John Gruden's offense he ran in his days at Tampa Bay. I haven't seen the playbook from his new stint with the Raiders, but I've seen that last version of his 220 different passing plays. Why? Why do you need 220 passing plays? You can't run 220 passing plays if you played 9 seasons. It's going to take forever to. You can't practice all of them. You can't practice half of them. Practice maybe a quarter of those plays. And you've got to have some run plays too, I'm assuming. So it's insanity, right? These are obsessives. Let's be honest. Particularly offensive coaches are obsessives. They're always collecting plays. They fall in love. They see somebody did something, right. We talked about the little thing about Bieniemy finding that thing from the 1948 Rose Bowl. They're always collecting plays. They rarely get rid of them, though, right? Until they're hoarders. So there's only a handful of guys that say, I'm taking this play out. I'm getting rid of it. If a play really bites you enough times, sometimes they'll do it. Stack up more plays. Instead of saying, oh, don't worry about these, we're never going to use them, they make them learn all of them. So let's be honest. Several teams, especially with young quarterbacks, reduce their playbook down. They just shrink it down. They may not tell you that's what they're doing, but they do it. They realize we can't run all this stuff with a guy that's a rookie. Now, Peyton Manning, right? You can run all their plays. You can install a new play a couple hours before the game and just sort of describe the concept to him and say, Peyton, you name it. And he'll come up with a name for it. And he'll
Omaha.
and he'll teach it to the other players, right? But when you have especially these guys who are coming out earlier and earlier out of college, right? More and more of the top quarterbacks are coming out as redshirt sophomores or juniors. So they don't have the same amount of experience playing quarterback they throw more passes, right? There was what's his name? In 1 year at Washington, what's that guy's name? But he had more pass attempts than Joe Willie Namath had his entire career, right? So we're at a point where Browning, when he was at Washington, one season had more passes than was attempted by Namath his entire college career. So they're throwing the ball more, but the passing complex are simplified now in most of these offenses. And now NFL teams are realizing maybe we don't need this, right? We don't need the Manhattan phone book necessarily for our offensive playbook. And so a lot of these teams are shrinking it down. And they may not be admitting it, but a lot of teams are doing it with young quarterbacks.
Boy, I don't know. That's really an admission of age, the Manhattan phone book. But go ahead, Dimitri.
Yes, right.
I was going to let that go. I think ultimately I'm going to rephrase your question. And your real question is, what makes him a dummy? And I think Don answered it. You're not a dummy because you don't know your playbook. That playbook's ridiculous. We've all talked. You're a dummy because you admitted you don't know your playbook. That's what makes you dumb. That's why your Wonderlic score was probably single digits, because you don't know that when you don't know your playbook, like a lot of dudes, you don't admit it. So I would question his intelligence, not because he doesn't know the plays, but he was too stupid not to keep his mouth shut. That makes me question his intelligence right there. You'll figure out the playbook. You're in your second year. You'll be fine. But the answer is never, ever, ever under any circumstance.
Now, I will admit, guys, this next question really tested me on my Cribbing After Dark and my use of initials. So I'm going to start with you, Dimitri. The WFT, Washington football team,
the WFT,
doesn't have to rely on the quarterback because of all of their offensive weapons. Demetrius, what the
right. Yeah, it's after 10. I feel like we should just go. Don's been going there for 45 minutes. I don't know why we're all holding back. So again, I think I'm going to translate. So I'm going to refer to the fine work of Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele in a sketch they call the Obama Translator. So I'm going to be Luther. What we don't have to rely on our quarterback means we don't have a good quarterback. Our quarterback sucks. So we're going to do everything we can to not talk about him, not reference his play, not rely on him because he ain't that good. And I believe he's got some cute little pretty boy nickname and a gross looking beard, whatever. The guy's made a lot of money in the league. I'm not mad at him. He has duped and bamboozled his way through this league for years, just cashing checks. And he might be okay. But simply put, what that means is, we don't really love our quarterback situation. You never heard anybody in Kansas City say we don't rely on our quarterback. Right? The guys down in Tampa aren't saying we don't. They're saying the opposite. We are fully reliant on our quarterbacks. Even he who shall not be named, they're saying, please come back. We love him so much because they are heavily relying on their quarterback. When you say we don't need to rely on our quarterback, you are speaking code. We don't really like our quarterback situation. That's my opinion on it. On the WTF or the WFT or whatever we're calling them. Whatever we're calling them after dark.
Yeah, what the
exactly.
WTF, you're right.
That's what we're going to call them after dark.
Don, WTF was he thinking?
Oh, no. But you need a quarterback, and you need to just admit that you need it. You know, don't sit there and say, well, we have a great offensive line, we have a great running back. You have to have someone pulling the trigger, you know. So they need to find someone, sign to a 2-year deal, draft next year, and just bite the bullet. Be patient. But yeah, this whole we don't need a quarterback. That's crazy. Yep. Find a quarterback who knows the playbook or half the playbook. Just half the
playbook. Bill, we don't need a quarterback. What do you think? Where the hell that come from?
So, despite all of our chuckling, and we are chuckling because it's funny, Washington is essentially a couple of players away, and one of them is quarterback, from being a really interesting franchise. I mean, they've lost a few pieces, you know, Kerrigan, but they haven't lost much. They have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, and they have a sprinkling of talent on the offensive side of the ball. They still need to figure out. I mean, they need a legitimate playmaking tight end at some point, but that's, you know, can wait. They need to find, you know, a Robin, and maybe the draft has given them the Robin that they needed to go with Terry McLaurin's Batman.
Yeah.
And yes, at some point they really need to figure out the quarterback position because they're not that far away. They probably are still the best team in their division, which once again I know may not be saying that. But there's stuff to work with. And so the Whiskey Foxtrot Tangos do have a chance to, I mean, they're a playoff team, most likely, right? I mean, it sounds funny somewhat saying it, but who's going to keep them out of the playoffs, right? I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Like, who's going to keep them out? They're probably going to win their division. So I think this is a playoff team. I mean, Chase Young is a budding superstar. Yep. And they're probably going to sort of build around him. I mean, obviously, not so much on offense because he plays on defense, but on defense, he's a guy that was really good as a rookie and is likely to be great as a sophomore, you know, second year in the NFL. And then his third year, woof, you know what I mean? Like, when he really puts it all together, where he really understands what he's doing, and the game slows down, as they put it, and he knows how to set guys up. He's not just trying to beat them, but he now knows how to put them in bad situations, bad positions, and, you know, use the counters they've developed against them, right? When he gets, because he works at it. He's a thinker. He's not just a freak physically. And so when he puts all that together, which will take another maybe year or two, that secondary, a work in progress, but I think is heading in the right direction. Their linebackers are solid. And once again, you know, obviously Coach Rivera is a tremendous defensive, which is looking at head coach. So that defense is likely to be really solid. They just need their offense to do a little something. And that's a team that could easily win 9 or 10 games and go 10-7 or 9-8, as weird as that sounds, but they have a chance to do that. And no offense, once again, to the rest of the NFC East, I think that might be sufficient.
Yeah. Yep.
Possibly. Bill, they brought out the jersey today. The Jags are fielding number 85.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
There are rumors, hey, we might use him as, like Tyson Hill's used down in New Orleans.
Yes.
But, Bill, is this just the Jags big, turning out a big Swiss Army knife here?
Well, I'm not sure if he's even that. I want to see if he's even an entrenchment tool. I mean, we're talking about a guy that hasn't played football in a while. And when he played, he was playing a different position. And he was an okay athlete. Above average for quarterback. 12 years ago or 11 years ago, right? He was an above average quarterback athlete. But he's not an above average tight end athlete. Assuming he's the same athlete he was then, he's going to be a below average athlete who's below average size at his position. I mean, this really does very much feel like, I don't know if he even makes the roster. Now, he probably will, but he probably will be a practice squad guy. I mean, I don't know how excited I'm supposed to get about a practice squad H-back, but
great line.
I mean, they're going to teach him how to block, right? The first block he throws will be the first block he's thrown in his life. I mean, I don't have to tell people, like, what are we supposed the only reason we're talking about him is because he is Timothy Dwight Tebow. That's the only reason we're talking about him. If this was any other 33-year-old backup tight end, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We really have hit a level that I'm not sure we should have hit when we're having this conversation about this guy who probably shouldn't be in the NFL, but okay, maybe he is, whatever. But the only reason this bothers me, once again, is it puts to the lie that the NFL is a meritocracy. That's what bothers me about it. I said it before, I'll say it again. There are better players who are better suited to be able to better contribute at that position because they've been playing the position. They're bigger, they're faster, and they know how to catch a football when someone's hitting them in the ribs. The first time he does that will be the first time he's done it in his life. In his entire life. And he's going to try to learn to do this at the NFL level. Please, someone finish this.
Don, what's your thoughts on Mr. Tebow?
Well, not growing up, he's much younger than I am, but I always liked Tim Tebow. Good guy, does a lot of charity work, special needs. But it's a head scratcher, the fact that he's playing a position he's never played before. I'm with Bill on that one. The only thing I can think is that Urban Meyer wants him in the locker room to I don't want to use the word spy, but I think
I
he's
like it. I like it. This is great.
Brilliant, Don. Brilliant.
I think he's in the locker room to run interference. Some guy said, "Oh, fucking Urban Meyer doesn't know what she's doing," and Tim's like, "Calm down. He knows what he's doing. He's won national championships. Well, we're gonna pray for him right now." I mean, so that's the only thing I can think of. But NFL tight end, I don't know. How about deep snapper? Hey, well, no, you think I'm crazy, but hey, quarterbacks, if you can go overhand,
right, hand-eye coordination. I get it. Right?
hell of a deep snapper. No. All kidding aside, playing deep snapper makes more sense than tight end. Think about it. I'm not trying to.
You're right. No, you're right.
Well, it's funny because it's true.
Right.
So can you imagine the standing ovations for your long snapper? That's awesome. Hilarious and sad all at the same time.
Yeah.
Do the soccer clap.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Oh man, hey, never know what you might hear on the sports crib, especially after dark. Go ahead, Demetrius. Finish this
Oh
up.
no, I'm not doing that. We can go on to the Lions. I'm not touching that. The guys covered it. I'm not even gonna waste our time.
All
I want to
right,
know
then.
what's in Don Hayes' cup. That's what I want to know. But if we still got a shot at talking about the Lions, I'm not wasting my time on Tim Tebow. Trying to keep this under 3 hours.
Well, let's see then. We'll talk about your Lions. And your coach came up with a great quote today. Matt Stafford throws a beautiful ball.
No. See, I love that you made that mistake. But I think he said it about Jared Goff, right?
Jared Goff. I'm sorry.
Right, cool. No, that's great. I missed number 9.
Yeah, no, you will all see it.
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing. I think, and I won't even go long because I've done this one before. I believe Jared Goff has a redemption opportunity of a lifetime.
Yep.
I think people have undersold him. I think Sean McVay sullied his name, and I think he is 26 years old, and he has an organization that is committed to him. He has a head coach and a coordinator and a quarterbacks coach that are going to do everything in their power to help him be successful. And I think the offense, as an offensive line, he's got a good running back room. He has an opportunity to prove a lot of people wrong. And I think he throws a pretty ball is sort of a culture thing. He's really saying, this is my quarterback. Stop bad mouthing my quarterback. This is my quarterback. And I'm glad he said it. I didn't see the passes. I'm sure they were pretty. The word pretty has gotten a lot of run tonight. But I think Jared Goff does throw a pretty ball, and I think he will be a solid quarterback for my team this year. And I think he's gonna redeem himself.
So, Don, how does a pretty ball translate to wins?
Well, as long as you have the chemistry, the receivers, you know the playbook. Apparently, a pretty ball will go a long way. You just have to know, which way you're going to throw it and who you're going to throw it to. Just throw it to the right jersey. But I think Dan Campbell is going to do well. But do y'all know much about Dan Campbell?
Yes, I remember him as a blocking tight end.
Yeah, he wants to play for the Lions.
He's an interesting dude. I mean, he's pure Texas. I mean,
yes, he is.
Even if he's an Aggie, he's
very much.
He's about as Texan as it gets in the NFL. But even though he's an Aggie, I'm pulling for him.
Yeah, wait, break a few knees, Caps. All right, sounds to me more like an '80s gangster. Let's bust some kneecaps here. I'm kind of familiar with that era. But anyway, I digress once again. Bill, what's your thoughts here on when you look at your new quarterback and you say, well, he throws a pretty ball?
Well, I mean, part of it is just simple factual reporting. Jared Goff, say what you want about him, is a guy that has good, clean mechanics. He's the son of a guy who was a minor league catcher for many years. He grew up playing baseball and obviously football as well. He's not a weak-armed guy. I mean, there have been people who've acted as if Jared Goff can't push the ball down the field, and there's all kinds of factual, things that you can pull out from, the gun data from when he was at the combine to his pro day to his actual NFL career, where you can see in games where he's made difficult high-level throws. The criticism about Jared Goff stems essentially, in my mind, from two things. One, the assumption that McVay is a genius, and somehow the sheer geniusness of McVay has been carrying along Jared Goff like he's a leaf in, a current on a river. And the other part of it is this sense that he's a creature of play action and design, right?
Yeah.
And so if it's not play action and certain things aren't designed there, he just can't get it done, right? Well, once again, there's enough factual information out there to dispute that pretty successfully. Now, is he a top 8 or top 10 quarterback? We'll see. He certainly has occasionally looked like one. He hasn't been able to do it consistently. Now, is it because he's a young quarterback? I mean, as brought up once again by Demetrius, he's just 26. It's so funny to me how quickly people want to turn the page on players nowadays. I mean, in the old days, a guy would be just being established as a starter at 26, as opposed to people trying to close the book on you at 26. It's just nuts. So if you are, one, willing to purge your mind of preconceptions and just watch him throw a football, you're going to be impressed. He does throw a pretty ball. Like, that's a valid way to react. He has good command of where the ball's going. He has good zip. When he's gotten into trouble in the past, it hasn't been his ability to throw a football that's gotten into trouble. It's been decision making and handling the pass rush, handling the protection part of it, and navigating the what they call a muddy pocket, the conflicted pocket, whatever term you want to use. He's not always great at creating that extra half second that the great ones know how to create. Even though Brady's, obviously a terrible athlete in terms of objective measurement, he has a great sense of how to create that extra half second of time to get the ball out. And obviously some of the more mobile quarterbacks are really good at it as well. Goff doesn't have that innate sense, that just sort of that spider sense that Brady and others seem to have. And he's also not particularly nimble as a pure athlete. So you either have to have elite level protection, or he has to just get better at this, or have a great running game, which at times the Rams had in the past. But he is more than capable of playing well. So I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out and plays better than most people are expecting. I'm projecting, and once again, it's just me talking here, but I'm projecting about 3,300 yards passing, about extra game, about 28 touchdowns, probably about 9 to 11 or so. Maybe, the extra game, maybe 9, maybe 11 interceptions. That's not awful. And if you get contributions out of your run game, which I know is not a given necessarily because it didn't really happen last year. Well, it happened sporadically last year, but I didn't get consistency in the run game. That's going to be an offense that's not that easy to deal with people. I think the team as a whole, as I pointed out, is another couple of cycles of adding talent away from being a legit contender, but there's some stuff to build on. You have one really special young offense, and you need a couple more of those. You unfortunately you've been without your best defensive back for a couple of years, but some of the younger defensive backs on the roster may take a step forward this year. You don't really have that pass rusher where you go, oh my God, we got to deal with that guy. You don't have that. You got to find that at some point because all the really good teams have that, at least one guy that really worries you as either interior or exterior, but somewhere along your defensive line who's a pass rusher who's an actual headache.
And you don't need to talk about the linebackers.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Dimitri, I really, I guess I got to point this question at you because is Todd Gurley going to be your Tim Tebow?
He's not. Todd Gurley is 27 years old.
Right.
Tim Tebow's 34.
And now, he's not trying to learn to play a new position.
Exactly. And he's been a running back most of his life. And he's going to be a part of a committee with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. He will contribute. Tim Tebow is – we're after dark. That whole Tim Tebow thing is bullshit. Sorry, we got to be honest about it. Todd Gurley will help us win football games.
He's trying to eat your words when he became all-pro deep snapper.
He is the long snapper in the Pro Bowl. You're right. I'm going to come on the SPORTSKRIB and go, Don had it right. He made the Pro Bowl as a long snapper. I was wrong. Absolutely. Now, Todd Gurley will be a great addition to the room. And he's 27. He doesn't have to be the feature back. He would be a nice ad. He would be Adrian Peterson last year, who was a nice ad. It was affordable. He brought, a legitimate running back to the room. And don't sleep on Jamal Williams, by the way. Jamal Williams is a good player. So they have a nice running back room. I like the running back room.
So we've just called Todd Gurley a Tahoe. But that's okay. All right. Okay. Bill, I kind of felt that, Cameron Haywood had called me personally this morning because he says he's tired of people bashing Big Ben. And I'm still saying that Big Ben is the fourth best quarterback in our division. So, Bill, help me out here. Are you on my side or are you on Cameron Haywood's side?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of love and respect for you, but if it's a fight, I'm choosing Cam. I was raised to think strategically, but what I will say about what both of you have to say, Ben Roethlisberger was clearly not healthy last year, right? Let's be completely honest. Will he be more healthy this year? One can certainly hope so. I have not yet seen evidence that convinces me that he's healthy. I think his elbow hurts. Now, maybe I'm wrong. But if his elbow doesn't hurt or stops hurting at some point, whichever, and he's able to be a intermediate passer, he doesn't have to be a deep passer anymore. If he's even a legitimate intermediate, 12 to 18 yards down the field, even 22 yards on occasion, and he's getting it there with a little bit of sting on it, not blowing it through people, but getting it there with enough on it, that's a team that could still be trouble for people. But if he's just a dink and dunk artist who no longer can extend plays and they don't establish the run really, which apparently is the big difference. They're going to really establish the run this year. Well, I'll believe when I see it, but that's supposedly what's going to happen this year. But if indeed he is at least recovered enough to be an intermediate level passer, able to get those digs and seam routes and stuff like that in there, and they have a bit of a run game, they can still be a meddlesome team, a team that gives you some trouble. I don't know why, because, winning 7 games and missing the playoffs anyway doesn't really help you. Why not just stink at this point and, not pick in the latter half of the draft for the first time in, 13 or whatever years it is. I think he's got a little something left, but the question is pain, frankly. If his elbow doesn't hurt, and once again, I'm just assuming, to me, it looks like it still hurts, and we'll see. That's what I looked at. When I looked at him last year, thinking, his elbow hurts. That's what I kept thinking when I watched him. So if his elbow doesn't hurt, and he plays better than last year, which isn't saying a whole heck of a lot, that's a team that should at least, be trouble. But I don't know why. Like, to what end? Why not just be terrible? Because you're not a team that's good enough to win a Super Bowl.
The only thing that terrible goes with in Pittsburgh is towels, not teams, Ben.
Right. But my point is that finishing, right around 500 and missing the playoffs, whatever.
That's terrible. That's
right.
terrible.
Well, right, but I'm saying that's what we're looking at. Like, if things go right, James, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at 8-9 wins if things go right.
Demetrius, when you heard about Drew Brees and his injury, you heard about Peyton Manning and their injury. The first thing you heard was how they did extra work, spent extra time with a coach, a throwing coach, spent extra time in the weight room. Big Ben doesn't do that.
No. So here's the thing, though. I'm stuck on the word bashing, and maybe I don't know the definition of bashing, but to say that a 39-year-old quarterback playing on, by every measure, a bad elbow, in any measure that's so, an injured 39-year-old is the 4th best quarterback in his division, is bashing him? That feels like facts to me. Feels like everything Bill Carroll just said is just a whole big ass dose of truth. I don't know where's the bashing. So give me some of the bashing. Saying he's old, that's not bashing. 39 as an NFL quarterback is old. Saying he's injury prone, that's not old. Saying he's the 4th best quarterback in that division, none of those are bashing to me. Those are factual statements. Probably stand up in some courts in America.
So if you guys like word be flat, you keep saying Big Ben, but the new nickname, James, is Chad Bennington.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
come
awesome.
on. Oh, please. Oh, my goodness.
And
Yeah, I heard you made a slip there, and I thought you were going to make a reference to Ryan Leaf, but you missed that one. But now we've hit the okay, right. Don, you get the last word on this. I mean,
Well, just watching Big Ben the last half of the season, he was playing very timid, very like he was trying to avoid being hit, trying to avoid getting hurt. And I mean, I think he does have some tenderness in his throwing arm, shoulder, elbow. The fact that he used to. I guess I'm talking about his throwing motion. When he throws it, he's not falling all the way through. He's like it's like throwing a dart. And I think that's a sign of age, a sign of I'm getting told this shit maybe. But
bad elbow too.
Yeah, bad elbow. Yeah. So hell, he said 38,
39.
39. Yeah, it's time to try something else, James. Sorry.
No, how about playing some long snapper, Don? That seems to be the solution.
Yeah, just move in the long snapper. That's the solution to everything, right?
And he doesn't throw a pretty ball either. Like he
Yeah.
Oh man, hey guys, but I'm sure we've had a lot of fun for the month of May here. I want to before I get to my final thoughts and all that good stuff, Don, as always, man, good having you here. I know we keep you up a little past your bedtime there, man, but why don't you give us your final thoughts for the month of May here?
Final thoughts. Well, next week is my last week of school, so I'll be sleeping late if I have to. That's fine. I just want to touch on something a little bit on a sadder note. The University of Texas lost another key component of the program, a guy named Larry Falk. Larry Falk started off as a student's equipment manager back when my brother played back in 1981. And he graduated in 84 and got on as an assistant. They hired him immediately. He worked his way up to the equipment manager, and then he worked his way up to associate athletic director for facilities. I mean, he was coordinating all the, when the stadium had grass, I mean, he was in charge of all that. Locker room renovations. He got involved with the baseball team whenever they went to Omaha for College World Series. He was coordinating that. Dude weighed 400 pounds and lost 100, and he lost a lot of weight. I was real proud of him. I told him that. But last night he went to sleep and didn't wake up. So my thoughts go to the Larry Falk and his family, and he's a good guy. He was inducted into the Longhorn Hall of Honor. So there you go. Good being on the show with you guys. I really appreciate it. Lots of fun. And by the way, this is just water.
That was just my way of saying you were on fire tonight. That was just my way of saying you were on fire tonight. I loved it all.
Hey,
I don't drink.
Oh, nice.
Well, hey, I don't either. That's my mason jar full of apple juice. Occasionally, I do it might be full of hard cider sometime, but I'll make sure that's Cribbing After Dark. But guys, let's see. Demetrius, final thoughts, man. What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm taking us right to Cribbing After Dark. I normally am upbeat, and I want to recognize contribution. And I had a whole Miles Davis thing ready, but I need to table that because oddly, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off. So racism is a real thing in our country, right? And people experience it on a real level every day. Most way worse than I've ever experienced. I've been super blessed in that way. But so what Kyrie Irving did the other night bothered me on so many levels. I won't take up the whole podcast. I will say this. He did a disservice to Bill Russell and Casey Jones and guys who really experience racism. Here's the thing. To do that subtle, he likes to do this, I'm the smartest guy in the room thing. I'm going to okey doke everybody, right? So to do this whole, I'm going to get booed mercilessly in Boston because of racism. No, that's not it, Kyrie. Here's the deal. There's 3 reasons you're going to get booed mercilessly. 1, you don't play for the Celtics. That's how sports works. You booed the other team. You are wearing the wrong jersey. 2, you were the dude who walked out to the middle of the court and said, I love you guys. And if you'll have me, I'll stay. That was you. And then you went and signed with Brooklyn. That was you. Those were your choices. That was you. You went to the girl's house. You went to her family reunion and you stood up in front of her whole family and said, I love her. I'm going to stay with her as long as she wants me. And a hot chick walked by and you bounced. You left her ass. You did that. That's on you. So they're going to boo you because you're not a Celtic. They're going to boo you because you screwed them. As a fan, that was the definition of screwing them. They bought in. Fans invested. I'm not talking about the money for the tickets. When you did that little speech at midcourt, you're our guy. They invested. So you're going to get booed because you screwed them, and mostly because you're an asshole. I'm sorry, Kyrie, you're an asshole. That's what it is. And I don't know you, and I'll never know you. I don't care. You did a disservice to everybody. Women who get discriminated against, Black people, Asian people, even white dudes. You did a disservice to everyone who experiences real discrimination of any kind by that passive aggressive bullshit you pulled. You're gonna get booed because you're an asshole and you screwed them. That's the bottom line. And if you don't get that, and anybody who fell for the okie doke, oh, poor Kyrie, I hope the fans, I hope they light his ass up. I hope they throw stuff on the floor. I'm cool if they spit on him. Well, no, never mind. That's not true. That's not true. Spitting is across the line, no matter what. Yeah, popcorn, I could probably get down with. I hope he gets booed as badly as anybody I've ever heard, because that was nonsense. I was offended. I'm still offended. Bill Russell is my favorite basketball player next to Isaiah Thomas. And that's a homer thing. Bill Russell is a great human being. He did great things for all of us. My life is better because of Bill Russell. My life is worse because of Kyrie Irving. I'm pissed for Bill Russell and Casey Jones and many others who dealt with, in Boston and other cities, dealt with real racism. For him to pull that nonsense the other day and act like, you guys all know what goes on. No, screw you, Kyrie. That was BS and pissed me off. And I don't like to go negative or sound righteous, but we'll talk about Miles Davis next week.
Well, oddly, maybe not so oddly enough. That's why World Be Flat wasn't really one of our topics tonight.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pull that out.
No, and I'm with you, and especially being my age, it was kind of an insult. It might have been one of those, as grandma say, slap the taste out of your mouth type of situations.
Disrespect.
Yeah, so I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I guess it won't be my handprint aside his face. So anyway, go ahead, Bill. Thanks so much, Demetrius. Oh, Demetrius, you got to tell them where they can find you and everything. Make sure we get that in.
Absolutely. The Roar Podcast. We're on SoundCloud, Spotify. We have our Facebook page. We put all of our posts up. It is all Detroit Lions related. So I don't expect, unless you just want to hear some interesting talk about the Detroit Lions, feel free. Our real fun is during the season. We post a podcast within an hour of the game finishing, and that's what we do. So enjoy the Roar Podcast anytime. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
All right, my man. And we will see you next week. Bill, your final thoughts.
Certainly. So there's been a lot of things we've said, some very serious, some rather silly. And this, I'm going to talk about some things that are serious and the silliness that sometimes surrounds those things. So several teams, as this is the time of year where several teams make changes to their staffs, or recently made changes to their staffs. The Buffalo Bills added 4 people, 4 human beings, 2 of them full-time. One of them is Sophia Lewin, and Sophia Lewin will be an offensive assistant. Andrea Gosper will be the player personnel coordinator, and also they added 2 interns. Amongst the 2 interns they added are Michelle Jeter and Nikki Donoff. Michelle Jeter will be in scouting, and Nikki Donoff in operations. Recently, as many of us may know, Kelly Klein was about a week or so ago elevated to the Broncos executive director of football operations and special advisor to the general manager, making her the highest ranking woman in scouting in the history of the league. The Eagles recently promoted Catherine Raish to vice president of football operations, and a young woman who's already been within the organization, Amina Suleiman, was moved up from player personnel coordinator to a scouting position. And Katie Sowers, who some of you may remember from her days with the 49ers, has now be joining the staff of the Kansas City Chiefs for the Bill Walsh Diversity and Coaching Fellowship. And to me, this is all incredibly good news, but there have been a lot of people who have, you can almost play a pre-recorded message from pick a year, about, what about people who play? What about this? What about that? Well, first of all, some of these women have played football. Some of them even in semi-professional leagues. Some of them in college club teams. Some of them in, flags since they were 7 or 8 years old. But the point is that they know what they're doing, right? Whether or not they played, and most of them played, at least some, but even if they played, heck, if the last time they played when they were 9 years old, it was in the street, if they've devoted their lives throughout their college years, because every single one of these people, almost every single one of them, had some sort of graduate assistant in college around football. Many of them have worked professionally for years in football. And it wasn't until very recently people paid attention to the positions that they held. And of course, several of them earned promotions. A lot of people, for whatever reason, feel like the usual suspects should get all the jobs in football. We should sort of, like I said, keep recycling the same old. Or if we do go young, it has to be somebody who, looks like, a leading man actor in, a movie starring, what's her name? What is her name? What is her name?
That's a good one. What's her name? There you go.
Yeah, what's her name? Sorry, what's her name? The one that looks like the one that's marrying Aaron Rodgers, but not her. Not Shailene Woodley, but the one that looks like her. But who's a little older than her. But the point is that it's always the same sort of people who get NFL coaching jobs, right? Or get scouting jobs, who get vice president of football operations jobs and GM jobs. If we are willing to expand the talent base to everybody, one, you're going to get more good applicants if you are willing to look at everybody. Two, it's been demonstrated in every single study that's ever been done of large organizations and sometimes even small organizations. Diversity works. Diverse organizations perform better than their less diverse competition consistently. The one reason that America is so great is this diversity. People tend to believe that until a woman gets hired for a football job. Oh my God, the things you see in the comments section. We were talking about after dark. I mean, that's like after the dark ages is what some stuff is. I mean, come on, people. Come on. Really? Is that what we're still doing in the year of our Lord, 2021? Every single person who's gotten any of these jobs that I've talked about spent years working towards getting it. These were people that were snatched off the streets. These were people that just, tripped and fell into a job. They've been working for years. The internet's free. I heard a lot of people questioning, what are their qualifications? I found every single one of their qualifications in seconds. Like the internet's free, people. I found where they'd worked before. I found that Miss Suleiman, who started way back when she was an undergrad at Temple, then later got a graduate assistantship, then got an NFL internship, then another NFL internship, then got her first full-time job. She's been working her way up the ladder for years. What are their qualifications? Hey, guess what? Blah, blah, blah. Use your Google machine, people. It's all right there for you. Look, when's last you asked when some white dude got the job what his qualifications were? Right? It only comes up when it's a woman or someone who's not white. Then people want to know what the qualifications are, right? What was Scott Iron's qualifications other than marrying Bill Parcells' daughter, right? But somehow no one had a problem with that. I wish people would just do some research. Second, realize this doesn't hurt anybody. It helps us all. You're going to get more quality applicants into the pool, and that means a better game for everybody. That's my final thought.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
My final thoughts, and I'll make it very short and sweet. People, while you are all celebrating your families and having a good time, remember that for a lot of families, it truly is Memorial Day.
Yep.
Hey, have a great week, everyone. Have a big weekend, long weekend. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. And most of all, hey, make sure you're back here next Thursday on the SPORTSKRIB. Have
Yes,
a
sir.
great night, everyone.
Have a good one, gentlemen.
Good night, guys.
All right, guys.
Have a good night, sir.
Hey, Bill, are you gonna be around for that inclusion show I was talking about on the 7th?
Is that this Monday or the following?
No, it'll be the following Monday, the 7th of June.
I can do that. Yeah. Just remind me.
Okay, all right. Because Demetrius already said he'll be there, and the kid Bo Sanders, who has the book, he'll be there. So,
I will definitely. Just remind me, but I'll definitely make myself available.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah.